Hello friends. Welcome to the Phoenix What If. How are you all? So in this video, we will see what if Naruto awaken god level power and get married with Rukia Kuchiki. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. 6 months after Aizen's defect, a large snake-like hollow flew back from the force of the attack it was just hit with. It got back up to look at his opponent. His opponent was a tall blonde-haired man standing at 6 feet 3, with 3 whisker-like marks on his face, deep blue eyes, wearing a black kasode, black hakama, white belt, black sandals, black gloves with the 2 middle fingers missing on the right and the 2 outer fingers on the left, and a white hori without sleeves with the 5th division symbol on the back. In his hand was a katana with a blue hilt, a claw-like guard, and a blue sheath sat on his waist. This man was Naruto Uzumaki, head of the 5th division of the Gotei 13. Currently the blonde was not happy. The snake charged only to be kicked upwards with a mighty boot. Of all the Ing days I have to deal with scum, why did it have to be today? Naruto asked himself as the hollow flew at him attempting to bit his head off. Naruto stopped the hollow with his left hand before slashing the hollow's mask in 2. The hollow roared before it vanished. Naruto looked up and growled. "Crap, I'm late," yelled Naruto as he opened a gate and quickly entered. In the Seirei, Rukia Kuchiki Uzumaki was not happy at the moment. Her husband was nowhere in sight and the party was about to begin. The house was decorated with blues and pinks. Many people had appeared at their house. Renji, Kushina her mother-in-law, Minato her father-in-law, Rukia, Momo, Toshiro, Tenten, Sasuke, Haku, Zabuza, Captain Unohana, her brother, Captain Kenpachi, Gaara, Hisugi, Captain Yukitaki, and Rangaku. "You should really calm down, Rukia-chan. It's not good for the baby," said one of her co-wives, Soifun Uzumaki. Rukia sat down and breathed out a heavy sigh. It wasn't too much longer. Just a little over 2 months and she would deliver her child. "I can't help but be mad, Soifun. Naruto-kun said he'd be here for this party today. He knows how much this means to me," said Rukia. "To all of us," said Nanao, giving Rukia a small hug. It was only a month after Aizen's defection that Naruto proposed to them all. A little over 4 months later they were married. After the girls got a little soul bonding in. The honeymoon after was so amazing that Rukia was surprised that neither of her co-wives were pregnant. "What the matter, Rukia?" asked Byakuya, walking over to his sister. "Nothing. I just want to know where my husband is. He knows that this day is important to me," said Rukia in a slightly pissed off voice. "He was sent on a mission by Commander Yamamoto. He told me he would be back soon," said Byakuya as Renji and Sasuke walked up. Sasuke now sported the lieutenant badge of the 2nd division. He probably ran into more than he bartended for. "Maybe a snake," said Sasuke, smiling at the thought. "Shut it, Uchiha," said Renji, glaring at Sasuke. Renji and Sasuke never really got along, but both wanted to be the child's godfather. Just as they were about to start arguing, they both got clocked upside the head from one pissed-off redhead named Kushina Uzumaki. Not many people wanted to be on her bad side. She was just like Naruto, except she was borderline unpredictable. "Can it you too? Can't you see that you're causing her undue stress?" "Sorry about that, Rukia dear," said Kushina, smiling at her. Nanao smiled. "Thank you for shutting them up, Kushina-san," said Nanao, only to have her lips stretched by Kushina. Kushina had a smile on her face. "I told you girls call me Ka-chan," said Kushina as she continued. "Hi Ka-san," said the 3 girls with Rukia laughing at Nanao and Soifun smirking. Gaara, Tenten, Haku, and Rangaku stood in one corner talking to themselves. Minato, Zabuza, and Kenpachi squared up in the training ground. Unohana, Hisugi, Momo, Toshiro, Yukitaki, and Iruka talked amongst themselves. All in all, it was a quiet event. The door opened and there stood Naruto with his captain's hori hanging over his shoulder and the biggest grin you had ever seen on his face. "Sorry I'm late, I got caught up with a pretty big hollow," said Naruto as he dodged an overhead slash curtsy of Zabuza. "Huh? A big hollow for you is like a guppy," said Zabuza. "This was a 2nd stage Manos, you prick," said Naruto, glaring at Zabuza. No matter how many times he kicked his sauce, he didn't shut up. Kushina clapped her hands, getting everyone's attention. All right, there's no need to talk about work. This is a special day. Rukia-chan and Naruto-kun have invited us to celebrate the life growing inside her. We're here for that reason, said Kushina, getting around from everyone. The day wore on and many laughs were shared as well as stories. Just as night was coming, everyone departed. Naruto sat on the roof looking out at the moon. The wind blow slightly and blow his hair around. 6 months had passed and still Aizen had not made his move. Naruto sent regular patrols into both worlds to make sure nothing happened, but it was not enough. Penny for your thoughts, lover, came Soifan's voice as she sat next to Naruto wearing only her bedrobe, a light blue kimono. Naruto grasped her hand, before kissing it. It's the fact that Aizen hasn't done anything yet that has me on edge. Also Nexus hasn't shown his face in a while, said Naruto as Soifan kissed his head. You're just being paranoid. Come on and come to bed with me, said Soifan, giving him a wicked smile, making Naruto shiver. The girls had worked it out to where he would sleep with one of them in a room and the last day of the week would sleep with all 3 of them at the same time. He never lasted long against all 3 of them. Next morning, Blue eyes opened to find Angel's face in front of him. Naruto smiled before he kissed Soifan on the forehead. He got up quickly dressed when he saw a hell butterfly land on the window sill. He grabbed it and quickly got the message, before walking over to Soifan and waking her. Soifan opened her eyes and looked at her lover. What is it, Naruto-kun? Asked Soifan as the cover slipped off her body, revealing her S to him. We just got called in for a captain's meeting, said Naruto, making Soifan get up and grab her clothes and quickly put them on. What are we waiting for? Let's go, said Soifan as they both stepped away. Hall of Captains. All captains had assembled. Yamamoto stood where he could look at everyone. Soifan, Hana, Byakuya, Shunsui, Toshiro, and Mayuri Kuretsuchi all stood on the right side. Rin, Naruto, Sajin, Hisugi, Kenpachi, and Yukitake all on the left. I call this meeting to order, said Yamamoto. What was the need to call us all sensei? Asked Yukitake, looking at his master. We received an alert from the Kakana town just yesterday. Ichigo got into a battle with 2 hollows, said Yamamoto. This warrants our concern because? Said Rin. These 2 hollows only hard pieces of their masks, said Yamamoto, making many look at him. Naruto was shocked. He had encountered a hollow like that before. It was Nexus. What the hell did you just say? Hollows without masks? I've only met one hollow like that and he was in a class all his own, said Naruto, looking at Yamamoto. That is true because he is a Vasto Lord, said Yamamoto, knowing more about Nexus than anybody. What a minute, then who was it that beat the shit out of Ichigo? Asked Kenpachi. Anyone who could give that kid a beating must have some niff of power behind them. We don't know, but I'm sending a team down to find out, said Yamamoto as Naruto stepped forward. Commander, allow me to lead the team. I know Kakana town as well as having experience with maskless hollows, said Naruto, looking dead at Yamamoto. You may put your team together, but it is still their choice to go, said Yamamoto. Toshiro stepped up. Sir, I volunteered to go on this mission as well, said Toshiro. Yamamoto seemed to think about it, before nodding. Very well, you have 24 hours to put together your team. Dismissed, said Yamamoto as all the captains began to leave. Soifan walked up to Naruto and slapped him. What the hell do you think you're doing? Just volunteering to go off and fight a powerful enemy like your life is worthless, said Soifan in a heated tone. If making sure the women I love are alright, then my life means little more than a grain of sand, said Naruto as he and Toshiro walked away. Are you sure this is wise, Naruto? After all, you have a child on the way. Perhaps you could stay with your wives while I go and lead the team, said Toshiro, looking at Naruto. It's not going to happen, Toshiro. Aizen has finally made his move. There's no avoiding the battles to come now. He's going to come after me with everything he's got, if I don't go after him first. I'm at the top of his hit list, Toshiro, and I don't intend to let him go unchecked any longer, said Naruto. Well, we're going to need strong people. Who do you recommend, Naruto? Asked Toshiro. Renji would be a good place to start. He has Bankai and decent control. Also, let's take Haku with us. She's a strong medic that could be useful, said Naruto. I hope you weren't thinking of going anywhere without us. Captains Uzumaki and Hisugaya, came a voice right behind them. They turned around and saw 3 people standing there. 3rd and 5th seed of the 11 Division Akaku and his partner Yamichika, standing between them was Rangaku. Yamichika flipped his hair. It would be most ugly if our 2 captains left us behind, said Yamichika. Naruto looked at Toshiro before smirking. Looks like we have a full team, said Naruto. Indeed, said Toshiro crossing his arms. Orders, sir? Asked Rangaku looking at the 2 captains. Naruto turned serious. Yamamoto gave us 24 hours to depart. I'm shaving that and making it 6. You have that long to get whatever affairs you have in order here, before we depart, said Naruto. The 3 nodded, before jumping off. Naruto himself walked off. He needed to talk to his LT and seated officers, before talking with his wives. Naruto's office. Naruto stood in front of Rukia, Tenten, and Momo. All 3 looked at him with wide mouths. He had just told them about what had occurred and what he planned. But Captain, started Momo only to be stopped by Naruto. It won't matter. I volunteered so I need to do this, said Naruto. Rukia looked at Naruto. He always knew that Naruto would become stronger than him, but to this level, he never dreamed it. Alright Naruto, I'll support your diction on this matter, said Rukia. Tenten nodded. As will I, said Tenten. Momo looked at the 3 of them. Alright, I guess I have no say in this matter, said Momo. Naruto nodded. I'm leaving the division in your hands, Momo. You'll be acting captain. Also Tenten and Rukia will be acting as your LTs until my return, said Naruto. Good luck with your wives, said Tenten smirking at her friend. Naruto glared at her. I have to go, we leave in 3 hours, said Naruto. Naruto's home. Naruto opened his door only to find 2 of his wives glaring daggers at him. Rukia put her hand on his shoulder and forced him into a chair. Don't bother explaining. Soifun-chan already told us, said Rukia. Then you already understand that I have to go, said Naruto, standing up and walking to the door only to find Nanao in his way. Why is that? It's not just your fight, it's also all of ours. We have to stop Aizen. You're not some lone hero who needs to fight a war alone, said Nanao, her thoughts from when Naruto fought Nexus coming back in a heartbeat. We may need a hero one day. Naruto looked at them both. Even if I'm not some lone hero. Aizen already has me as a tragic. He'll come after you. That's why I'm taking the fight to him, said Naruto. What, you don't think we can handle ourselves? Asked Rukia, feeling useless right now. The fact that you can take care of yourselves isn't the issue. The fact that I loved you 3 is. He'll come and we don't need that, not you, Rukia. Rukia sighed. Tell me again why we married you, asked Rukia, making Nanao smile and Naruto grin. Because I'm an incredible lover and love you 3 to death, said Naruto, kissing his wives, before flashing out. Naruto, no flash stepping in the house, yelled Nanao with a smile on her face. At the gate court, Naruto appeared next to Renji. Haku, Akaku, and Yamichika stood to one side, while Rangaku and Toshiro stood to the other. Is everyone ready? Asked Naruto, making them nod. Renji smirked. You bet, bro, said Renji. Please don't try and scare us, Captain Uzumaki, said Rangaku in her playful voice. This is going to be fun, said Akaku, smirking. Haku sighed. Try not to let it be too much fun. I have to patach you up afterwards, remember? Asked Haku, glaring at Akaku. Please Haku, try not to ruin our practice of battle, said Yamichika. Toshiro looked at them. Stay alert, said Toshiro. Yes, Captain Hisugaya, said everyone except Naruto. Naruto grinned. Let's get moving, Rapiers, said Naruto as they walked into the portal, with a hell butterfly hovering around them. Ichigo walked to school with his head wrapped and his arm bandaged. He had let 3 of the most important people in his life get hurt. Tatsuki, Chad, and Orihime had all been injured because he wasn't strong enough to beat them. He stopped for a second. Maybe he was a fool for refusing Shinji's offer to become stronger, but was the price of strength worth giving up his friends and his life? He almost didn't notice when he entered his classroom. Tatsuki sat next to him with her head wrapped as well, but she was the least hurt of the group. Chad's right arm was hurt, but he was okay for the most part. Orihime had gotten the worst of it. Her head was hurt, her left arm was completely busted up. it was the smaller one who did most of the damage to them. If it wasn't for Urahara and Yoruichi, he was sure they'd have died. Everyone stared at Ichigo, Chad, Tatsuki, and Orihime. They knew that Chad and Ichigo would come in a little bruised and banged up from attacks from thugs every now and then, but it was never this bad. Tatsuki was one of Ichigo's best friends. If something ever happened to her, Ichigo would go out and probably kill the person who did it. Orihime was the big shocker to the class. She was so kind and sweet. For her to get hurt meant a lot to everyone. "Ichigo, are you all right, man?" asked Keigo, looking at his friend. Ichigo looked at Keiyo. "I'm fine, Keiyo. It was just some punks a few days back. Nothing me and Chad couldn't handle," said Ichigo, putting on his tough guy persona. "No, he's not all right, kid. The physical stuff isn't what has him down. He took a blow to his freaking pride," came a voice from the door that could only belong to one person. Everyone turned to see a gang of students standing there. A chick whose rack was larger than Orihime's and practically jumping out of her shirt, a bald boy with a bakken, a boy who looked plain compared to the others, another cute girl with long black hair, a shrimp with white hair, and a guy with red hair. Renji, Akaku, Haku-san, Yamichika, Rangaku, Toshiro. "What the hell are you doing here?" asked Ichigo, standing up and looking at them. "We are here because of Yamamoto-sama and its captain Hisugaya to you," said Toshiro in an even voice. "Why is that?" asked Tatsuki. "Are they here to monitor us?" thought Tatsuki, glaring at them. "It's because of what happened a few days ago. Yamamoto sent us here to defend this place," said Haku, smiling at Tatsuki. Most of the class was lost. It was as if they were having a private conversation. Orihime was looking at them in slight wonder. Ichigo, Chad, Uryu, and Tatsuki looked ready for a fight. "I can't believe you, Ichigo," came a voice that made everyone turn. Sitting on the window was a boy with blonde hair that was taller than Ichigo. "Who is that guy?" asked a girl. "How long has he been here?" asked a boy. "I don't know, but he's cute enough to even turn Chizuru straight." "Look," said a blushing Michiru, pointing at Chizuru, who was starting a nosebleed and had fallen backwards. "Naruto-senpai," said Ichigo, shocked that his friend was here as well. Naruto got off the window, ran over to Ichigo and kicked him hard enough to send him into the wall. "Get the hell up, Ichigo. What happened to that pride of yours?" asked Naruto. Ichigo got up and slugged Naruto in the face, but Naruto barely moved at all. Many were amazed by this. Nobody could stand up to one of Chad's punches, but Ichigo's was on par if not harder than Chad's punches. Ichigo threw out a punch that Naruto easily sidestepped, before kneeing Ichigo and kicking him in the face, putting him on his back. Ichigo quickly hopped back up and threw out a kick that Naruto stopped with his right hand, before punching Ichigo in his face. "I'll ask you again, where the hell did that pride of your go?" asked Naruto. Ichigo got off the board and punched Naruto hard in the face. "It hasn't gone anywhere, Naruto," yelled Ichigo as Naruto backed up. Naruto grabbed Ichigo by the head and brought his knee into Ichigo's gut, making him fall over. Naruto then kicked Ichigo in the face, making him look up before grabbing his shirt and helping him up. Naruto sighed before staring into Ichigo's eyes that seemed so familiar, like he was looking in a mirror form all those years ago when he was a shinobi for the Leaf Village. "I heard what happened to you a couple of days ago. Big deal. You got your ass handed to you. It happens to the best of us at times. So just what the hell are you running from?" said Naruto, grabbing the front of Ichigo's shirt. Ichigo gritted his teeth. "Nothing. I don't run from anything," yelled Ichigo, making Naruto let him go, before his cell phone went off. Haku looked at Naruto. "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it and be back," said Haku. Naruto nodded to Haku, before walked away. A blonde-haired boy walked up to Naruto and tapped his shoulder. Naruto turned around and knew who this was instantly. The wide smile and pointed chin gave it away. If that wasn't enough, this guy was releasing a small flow of spiritual pressure into the room. It was enough to let Naruto know that it might come to blows, depending on what happened next. "Could I talk to you for a second? Improvite?" asked the boy, looking at the others. "Sure. Follow me," said Naruto, leaving the room. Once they both stood outside, they made sure no one could hear them. Naruto held a fox pendant in his hand. "What do you want, Shinji Hiriko, former captain of the 5th Division?" asked Naruto, making him smile. You know who I am. Good. This will make things a lot quicker and easier. You and your merry little band of Soul Reapers are going to leave Ichigo alone, or else, said Shinji, never losing his smile. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Or else what, Shinji? Asked Naruto, looking at the other blonde. At this the boys smirked. Or else the mask comes out, and trust me, you don't want the mask to come out, Soul Reaper, said Shinji. Naruto glared at him. What the hell does he mean by mask? Thought Naruto. I don't scare easy, Shinji-san. A Vasto Lord didn't scare me, so you won't, said Naruto. Shinji backed up. That's good. I'd rather keep this friendly. Say I never got your name, said Shinji, putting his hand on his chin. Naruto frowned at him. It's almost like he wants it to play a game, thought Naruto, glaring at Shinji. Naruto Uzumaki, captain of the 5th division, said Naruto. Shinji sighed. It seems Aizen is moving again after all this time. Oh well, farewell Soul Reapers, and remember, if I have to pull out my mask so will the others, said Shinji, walking away. Oh, and by the way, welcome to Karakura town, boys. Toshiro walked out from the shadows. He knew I was here the whole time. Bastard, said Toshiro, frowning. That means that he's real good at sensing others, or, started Naruto. Or he wasn't conceited by my presence. That means that he knows his stuff. I just want to know what he meant by mask, said Toshiro, looking at Naruto. That is the $1,000,000 question, Toshiro, said Naruto as they walked back to class. Later that day, Naruto sat in his apparent with the others. Earlier several of them tried to stay at Ichigo's place and failed. It was also at that time that Toshiro explained about the Manos classes. The only thing that was left out was the fact that they already knew Aizen had a powerful Vasto Lord as an ally. So what are we doing, Captain Uzumaki? Asked Akaku, sitting next to Rangaku, who was laying down. It's obvious that we should patrol the city starting tonight, said Renji, who stood on the opposite wall from Uchika. They might not come back tonight, said Rangaku, who was now hugging a pillow. That's the most ugly time to come back. When people are trying to get a graceful sleep in, said Yamichika, playing with a lifter he bought today. It doesn't matter. We have to patrol the city in cells of 2, said Toshiro. Aizen might send more than one agent out like last time. The report said it was 2 spiritual powers that matched that of at least a captain, said Haku. Look, we're arguing for noting the final choice lies with Naruto, said Rangaku, being the voice of reason. Naruto took what everyone said into consideration. We space out and make sure that we can handle every one of Aizen's forces that come here. Also remember that we don't have a clue as to their capabilities, so be careful, said Naruto as everyone nodded. Inside town, a portal opened up and 5 people stepped out. In front of them was 4 people. The first was their master. He had blue spiky hair, blue eyes with green lines below them, and what appeared to be part of a set of teeth on his right jaw and a hole in his stomach. He wore a white jacket with the collar upturned, white hakama. On his left side was a sword. Next to him stood a woman with long black hair, lavender eyes, slim, D-cup S, and on her face, on her delicate nose, was what appeared to be bones that looked like a small mask with fangs running down her face. It gave her a look as if she was going to a party. She wore a one-piece gray suit that was unzipped and showed off her cleavage. Next to her stood 2 men. One had his mask so only the upper part remained just above his eyes, while the other was as tall as 7 feet. What remained of his mask was covered his entire bottom lip and jaw. Master Grimmjow, what is she doing here? Asked the apparent leader of the small group. He didn't like her, she didn't work for Aizen. You can relax, Shalong. She's here on orders from her boss. Just so long as she and her boys stay out of our way, we're good, said the man with blue hair. I asked him, may I come to this world to do some investigations tonight? He doesn't like to give out orders unless he has to. My master is strange that way, said the girl. Whatever, girly. Anyway, that bastard Ulquiorra let that weakling live. We're here to fix that, but not only that. We have to kill every stinking person who has even the slightest bit of power. Spread your senses and pick a target, yelled Grimmjow as his men flew off. My lady, should we move out too? Asked the one on the right. Fools. You don't need my permission to kill, thought the girl. She smirked at them. Do as you wish, but return within the hour, said the girl. They both bowed before flying off. Grimmjow looked at the girl. Won't Papa be upset with his little girl Hinata? Asked Grimmjow, grinning. Hinata looked at him. Won't Aizen be mad at you? Asked Hinata looking at the battle-crazy Arrancar. Grimmjow smirked. Not too much, he said as he himself flew away to find the weakling Ulquiorra let live. With Naruto and Haku, they walked down the street when they saw Chad running. He had a small bit of blood coming from his chest. Chad, are you alright? Asked Naruto, stopping the large boy. Those guys are back. The ones with the masks. Ichigo sent me away so he could fight. I feel so useless right now, said Chad as glared at the ground. Naruto nodded to Haku as they both left their gegi and prepared to go to the scene. For the record, Chad, Ichigo is like me. He doesn't want to see any of his friends or loved ones hurt, so if he has to take on the world to do that he will, said Naruto as they rushed towards the scene. Chad still looked at the ground, wondering if he could ever fight besides his friend again? With Grimmjow and Hinata. Do you feel that, Grimmjow? Asked Hinata in an excited way. Grimmjow smirked. Two powerful enemies. But one seems a bit stronger. He must be the one that Ulquiorra let live, said Grimmjow as he headed over to the spiritual pressure. Hinata frowned. That power, where have I felt it before? Thought Hinata as she followed Grimmjow. With Akaku and Yamichika. Well, now this is a surprise. Two soul reapers here for me to pummel, said a large Arrancar with that looked like a pincer on his nose. Akaku grinned. This is all mine, Yamichika, said Akaku. Yamichika grinned and turned to find a large Arrancar behind him. Very well then, but this one is mine. I may have to use all my powers to win this, said Yamichika. You got that right, said Akaku as he and his opponent vanished. What is your name? Asked Yamichika. I'm sorry. How very rude of me. My name is Koden. I'm one of the personal guards of Commander Hinata, said the man. Yamichika flipped his hair. I see. Then it's only right that I tell you who I am. My name is Yamichika. I am the 5th strongest person in the 11th division, although my skills are on par with LT's, said Yamichika, putting his hand on his sword. It would be an honor to battle such a worthy opponent, said Koden, charring at Yamichika. With Ichigo prepared to square off with Arrancar with cyan hair and a mask that covered half of it. When the Arrancar was blasted back by a gust of wind, he turned around to find Naruto and Haku standing there, but Naruto was wearing a captain's hori. Naruto had his blade drew, but it was not in Shikai. Haku. No holding back, go full out on this hollow, ordered Naruto. Haku nodded, before throwing her blade into the air. Aim and freeze the seas. Tuketsu Fenikusu, 1, yelled Haku. Her Zanpakuto shattered into 100 pieces, before they began to reform on her right arm. At first it looked like a shield, but then a blade formed on both sides. She closed her eyes before holding her hand in front of her. What is your name? Asked Haku Prepari. Sorry girlie. With all the excitement I forgot to tell you the name of your killer. Deroy Linker. I'm Arrancar 16, said Deroy. Arrancar 16? Asked Naruto, looking at him. Deroy laughed, before charging at Haku. Haku slipped out of his way and kicked him in the leg and sending his back away. What do you mean by 16? Is it your rank in power or army-wise? Asked Haku. Deroy got up and glared at her. 16. It has nothing to do with power or rank, but in the order we were born. The only ones who have any real power are those ranked 1 to 10. It serves as both their rank and their power. They are the Espade. The lower the number, the higher they are in power and rank. Let me tell you something, those 10 are something else compared to us run-of-the-mill Arrancar, said Deroy, grinning. Haku, said Naruto. He got what he wanted from Deroy. Hi. It seemed you're no longer needed. Icy blaze, yelled Haku as she flash-stepped past Deroy. Deroy glared at her. She had cut him. The cut didn't hurt, but the bitch had the nerve to cut him. Deroy turned and was about to attack her until he started to get cold. Deroy looked stunned, for a second, before the cut on his chest began to ice over. He tried to get it off, but it wouldn't stop. As a matter of fact, it began to spread. Haku was on one knee with her eyes closed. It's no use trying to stop it. Whatever I cut with the blade form of my Zanpakuto will freeze over. Like the phoenix who rises from the ashes, you will turn into them as well, said Haku. Deroy completely freeze over, before the ice burst into bright blue and white flames. Haku's Zanpakuto returned to normal. Once the flames died, Deroy was no more. Haku looked at Naruto and began to walk over to him and Ichigo, before they felt a large amount of spiritual pressure. They all looked up and floating in the sky was two people, a man and a woman. The man looked completely crazy and the woman gave off a familiar air. D-Roy always was weak, said the man. I agree. As far as powers go he was the weakest of the group, said the woman as she sat down and crossed her legs. Naruto held his sword up. Haku, go to Toshiro and have him prepare for a fight, said Naruto. Hi, said Haku. Just as she was about to leave, a large man jumped in front of her. He stood at 7 feet and his mask was just the bottom part of his jaw. Haku held out her blade and glared. Let me guess. You're an Arrancar as well? Asked Haku. The hollow laughed. Yes, but I came with Mistress Hinata. I'm Kogen Tosoho, said the hollow. Naruto nearly dropped his sword hearing the name Hinata. He looked at the girl. Her hair was the same color, her face looked the same as hers. He stared into her eyes as she smiled. It was a cruel smile that Hinata never wore even against her most vile enemies. It can't be you. I saw you die, whispered Naruto looking at her. Hinata smirked at Naruto, before she drifted down to the earth and looked at him from close and eye level. That's right, Naruto-kun. Look past the mask and smile and see what is before you. Look at the women who died of a broken heart, said Hinata as she walked CL sword to Naruto and softly touched his face. Naruto backed her up a bit, enough so she was out of arm's reach. No, you can't be her, said Naruto, refusing to accept it. Hinata hugged herself as tears ran down her face. Yes, Naruto-kun, I'm the same shy, little, weird, cute, Hinata Hyuga. The woman who loved you more than life itself. The woman who would give up everything just for a kiss. The woman who hates you as much as loves you at this moment. The woman who will take your heart and devour it so she can always have a piece of you inside her. The piece she loves most, yelled Hinata as she drew her sword and flew at Naruto. Naruto blocked her attack, but her strength was so fierce that he was thrown back nearly 50 feet. He stopped as he smashed into a building. Naruto dug himself out quick enough, only to get a kick to the head and sent flying. Naruto! Yelled Haku and Ichigo. As they tried to run over and help them, Haku was thrown back by a punch and Ichigo was kicked into the air. Standing before them was the opponent that they chose. How about we let the two lovebirds fun? In the meantime you two can play with us, said Grimmjow walking up to Ichigo. And who the hell are you? Asked Ichigo. Grimmjow grinned. I'm Grimmjow Jaegerjaquez, the man who is about to kill you, said the man. With Naruto and Hinata, Hinata appeared standing only a few feet away from Naruto, before she walked up and grabbed his face. She made him stare into her eyes, making sure that he got a good glance so that it was burned into his mind's eye, before she kissed him. Naruto was shocked by the kiss from Hinata, but then he remembered that he was no longer dealing with his Hinata. He flashed away and appeared on top of a telephone pole. Hinata touched her lips. "Aw. What, Naruto-kun, you don't like me anymore?" she asked with a smirk. Naruto closed his eyes. "I still like you, Hinata, but not like this. If I'm going to free you I must execute you, Bankai," yelled Naruto as his bluish-white Ratisu surrounded him. Hinata looked at Naruto as he stood before her with his wings ready and his sword prepared. "I hope you can entertain a lady like myself for tonight, Naruto-kun," said Hinata, grinning at Naruto. Hinata charged at Naruto. Naruto vanished using Flash Step. Naruto appeared above Hinata and brought his sword down on her head. Hinata stopped the blade with her own. Naruto jumped back and fired off a white lightning Kido. The attack hit the area Hinata was in, making a small cloud of dust appear. Once it cleared, it showed that Hinata was nowhere to be seen. He felt the air around him and jumped out the way of a thrust attack from behind. Naruto spun on his heels and fired a hurricane strike at point-blank range at her. Hinata vanished before it could hit. Naruto quickly began to search again. Now that he knew that the Arrancar had their own version of the Flash Step, he would have to be a bit more careful. Hinata appeared standing on the side of a building, before firing a yellow Sero at Naruto. Naruto brought up a wind shield about 3 feet away, destroying it. Hinata frowned, before she fired 3 bala at him. Naruto raised his sword and fired a blast of lightning at the orbs, destroying them. "What was that?" yelled Hinata. Aizen had told Nexus that Naruto could only control wind. Naruto held up his sword, making sparks appear. I discovered aspects of Yeisei that I didn't know the first time around. Yeisei not only has the abilities of wind, but by using my own Ritsu I can bind the positive and negative energies in the air and create a bolt of lightning. Although I still haven't perfected it yet, it's more of a counter-attack, said Naruto. Hinata growled, before flying at Naruto and throwing out a powerful kick. Naruto blocked that attack with his blade, but was sent into the building. Naruto went through the building and saw Hinata above him with her sword coming down on him. Naruto used his free hand to grip her blade, cutting his hand open, before thrusting his sword at her. Hinata moved out the way and skidded to a stop not too far from Naruto with a piece of her hair cut off. Both charged again and their blades collided, but the force of the attack put a small crater in the ground. They forced each other back, before they both ran up a building and clashed. Hinata flipped over Naruto and kicked him in the back, sending him into the sky. Naruto stabilized himself, before rolling out the way of a sword thrust. He lashed out with a powerful kick that caught Hinata in her stomach and sent her flying. She landed, before she unleashed a wave of Ritsu into her blade that hit Naruto hard enough to send him flying back. Naruto jumped into the air and fired off a blast of wind. Hinata jumped out the way as the blast cut through the air and charged at Naruto. Naruto blocked her attack and threw her off, before slashing at her with an underhanded sweep of his sword. Hinata stopped it with a kick, before lashing out with a roundhouse kick. Naruto blocked the attack with a shield of wind before slashing at Hinata. Hinata jumped back and glared at Naruto. Hinata got a cut on her face and was surprised by it. She kicked Naruto in the face and sent him flying. She gently touched her hand to her face as she felt the blood run down it. She smiled at Naruto, before charging again with a slash. Naruto jumped out the way of a slash and thrust a strike at her. Hinata blocked the strike from his sword and glared at Naruto. Hinata fired off a volley of bala blasts. There were too many to shake, so Naruto brought up a shield. The shield blocked them, but Hinata appeared in front of him and slashed at him. Naruto got hit across the chest with a mighty slash, before backing off. Naruto aimed his sword at Hinata. Delta Force Wind Barrage, yelled Naruto, launching multiple blades of wind at Hinata. Hinata danced out the way of the blades and seemingly settled down. She stared at Naruto, who stared back. Honestly, what is it that I love about you? This pain knows no limit. The fact that you found happiness and I was left in the shadows was so unfair, yelled Hinata, looking at Naruto coldly. Hinata, it was never like that. I never wanted to leave any of my friends, said Naruto. Shut up. Yes, it was. I was right in front of you, but you chased after that little bitch Sakura. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand her. She hurt you and you allowed it. I'll admit I was shy, but for me that was probably more painful than never even kissing you one time, yelled Hinata. They both charge again, only this time Naruto was able to throw Hinata back a ways. Naruto charged his blade and fired the strongest blast he could muster at her. The blast hit her square in the chest and sent her flying. A large pillar of some air erupted from the streets. Before Naruto hoped she would stay down. He was already killing his heart to fight her. He didn't want to continue. When the sun cleared below, Hinata was laying on the ground with her bangs covering her eyes, before she stood up as if she was waking up by a pool. Naruto was shocked. Besides the upper part of her outfit being destroyed and a few scars, she was unharmed. You know, I didn't want to hurt you, Naruto-kun. I wanted you to understand me, like I used to understand you all those years ago, said Hinata, holding her sword up. Naruto landed in front of her. I wish you had told me about how you felt back then, Hinata. I would have tried so much harder to know you, said Naruto. If only you knew how much I loved that part of you, Naruto. Unfortunately, we must end our alone time. Shed no tears for love. Keno Kitsune. 1. Said Hinata as her Zanpakuto shattered and a large amount of Ritsu covered her. Naruto closed his eyes from the blinding flash. Once he opened, then he saw Hinata standing there, but she looked different. She had a tuft of white fur around her neck that fell and covered her S. She had grown 3 tails, and on each of her fingers were sharp claws. Her mask had fully vanished, leaving only untainted skin. Naruto was so in awe of this that he was nearly caught by a powerful kick to his face. Idiot! Watch yourself, her powers have increased by nearly 10-fold, yelled Yeisei. Naruto brought up his sword and blocked an attack from Hinata, before she lashed out with a powerful strike that left Naruto with scars across his chest. Hinata ed her fingers clean of his blood, before charging again. Naruto pulled his blade back and thrust it at her, unleashing a powerful blast that was guided by his Ryutsu. Only an inch away from Hinata, and she vanished only to reappear behind Naruto. Naruto froze as she nipped at his ear and kissed his neck. "I could have killed you just now, but I can't, love," said Hinata as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck. "To be honest, I never expected your weakness to be such an obvious one, Naruto-koi," said Hinata, putting small scars on his chest by dragging her claws across it. "What the hell are you talking about?" asked Naruto. As far as he knew, his Bankai didn't have a weakness. Hinata kissed his neck again, before lightly biting it. "It's not surprising, really. You only used it a few times before now. Aizen doesn't know about it, and neither does the wielder. Because your Zanpakuto contains the powers of wind, it's natural that you can use it to attack and defend. However, your Bankai as it is can only use one at a time, so it makes up for that blind spot with a blade," said Hinata, too. Naruto lashed out with a kick that Hinata easily stopped with her hand. Naruto jumped away and held his sword at the ready. He knew that he was in trouble. Hinata was already fighting him and nearly defeating him in the beginning, but now it looked like she had the clear victory. "Renji, Captain Hitsugaya, Captain Uzumaki, use of full power has been granted," came Rangaku's voice. Naruto smiled before a seal with his squad appeared on his chest. "You know that we captains and vice-captains are restricted when we come here. We are only allowed 20% of our powers in the human world, but now that we have been given clear access to them, I'm going to end this fight here," said Naruto as his powers skyrocketed after the crest glow before it shattered and a blue light flared up. Naruto started at Hinata, who looked at Naruto impressed by this show of force. Hinata vanished and reappeared to hit Naruto with a spinning kick, only for Naruto to stop it with his hand. Naruto knocked her back, before he kicked her hard enough to send her into the sky. Once that was done, Naruto flared his power before aiming his sword for his most powerful attack. Naruto let the wind gather at the tip of his blade while allowing Ryutsu to build it up. "Omega Hurricane Strike!" yelled Naruto as his wing broke and he unleashed the blast of white and blue Ryutsu-powered wind. Hinata covered her eyes, but didn't feel a thing. She looked at saw her two servants standing before her. The wider of the two had his arm-turned shield held up blocking the attack, but nearly destroying the shield, and his other arm had become a drill of sorts, while the other had two large spikes shooting from his back, while he had gained blade-like appendages in his arms. "Are you alright, Hinata-sama?" asked Kogen. Hinata sealed her powers. "I'm fine, Kogen," said Hinata as the taller of the two covered her with his jacket. "We should leave now, Hinata-sama. Konami has retrieved Grimmjow and we don't need to be left like lamps to the slaughter because of that fool," said Koden. "You're right, Koden," said Hinata as she opened a portal. Naruto tried to go and stop her, but was blocked by the shield wielder Koden. "Wait, Hinata!" yelled Naruto as he was thrown back. Hinata stopped and turned to him. "You know I was 16 when I died in the elemental nations. But I always thought you were protecting us from the grave," said Hinata. Naruto looked at her confused. "What do you mean us?" asked Naruto. Hinata smiled. "Before any of the male shinobi of the village are allowed to take on serious missions that have a full physical," said Hinata. "I already knew that, so please get to the point," said Naruto. "What you didn't know was that a large amount of your sperm was frozen over in case you died. At 14 I begged the Hokage to let me at least have your children so your family line wouldn't die out. 9 months later my twins were born. A son I named after you and a daughter that was named after my mother Hitomi," said Hinata. "Hinata, are you saying?" asked Naruto as he dropped his sword. "Yes, Naruto. You are a father and of my children. I will return for you, and this time we will have children the right way, my love," said Hinata as she blew Naruto a kiss, before vanished into the gate with her two servants following. Naruto fell to his knees before he gritted his teeth. "I thought my time in hell was over. I thought that after Aizen I could move on and live with my wives and children, yet," thought Naruto. Naruto looked up. "Once again I have been dealt a hand that haunts me and I knew nothing about it," said Naruto. Back at Nexus Palace, Hinata walked down the hall. Her guards had left to their chambers to heal while Hinata was left to think. "Soon, Naruto, very soon you will fall so far into the pit of despair that you will beg me to take your life," thought Hinata, laughing all the while ignoring that small voice that cried and begged her to stop. In Naruto's apartment, everyone was in a somber mood. Akaku was injured, possibly the worst, with Renji, Naruto, and Toshiro coming out with the worst wounds after that. Yamichika didn't have any wounds really. Rangaku walked away with only minor scars. Haku had managed to patch them all up, but it didn't matter. Naruto stood up and began to walk away. He walked out the house before slamming the door. Haku sighed before looking at the door. "What has him bugged?" asked Yamichika. "The woman he fought. He knew her once," said Haku. "How so, Haku-chan?" asked Rangaku. "I'm not sure, Rangaku-chan. I died at his sensei's hand in the world, before I could find out anything else about him," said Haku, looking down in sadness at all the possibilities that had been lost to her in life. "We should focus on healing ourselves right now. Those bastards did a number on us," said Renji. "But Renji," started Rangaku, only to be cut off. "No, Renji is right. Naruto is in pain, not physical, but emotional. It will take a little time for it to heal. Besides, those Arrancar have abilities that we knew nothing about. This will have to be reported to the commander," said Toshiro as he laid back to rest. Akuku opened his eyes in the other room and looked around. "How the hell did I get here?" he asked himself. With Naruto. Naruto walked along the river. He couldn't kill her. Naruto knew that he would have problems attacking Hinata if it came to another battle, but what was he to do? Naruto looked out at the water, before he suddenly blacked out. In his mind, Naruto opened his eyes and found himself facing Yasei. Yasei looked at Naruto pissed off, before charging at Naruto and tackling him to the ground. "What?" yelled Naruto, throwing Yasei off. "You dumbass. Even with your powers unlocked you still held back. Even using your most powerful attack you still held back. The attack was only at 60% of your full power and you only used 50% when you got the okay to unlock your powers," yelled Yasei. "What did you expect? Yasei. That was my friend. The mother of my children that I didn't know about. What the do you expect me to do?" yelled Naruto. Yasei growled at Naruto, something he rarely did. "She tired to kill you. She mocked you. She's no longer the girl you once knew. She is a monster trying to kill you," yelled Yasei. Naruto tightened his fist. "Maybe you're right, but I still have to try and get though to her," said Naruto as Yasei walked away a ways, before returning with 2 swords. Yasei's body changed until he looked like a human with dog ears. "Regardless of that, Naruto, she's still a hollow. I'll be your partner until we die, but we still must come to an understanding. Being the case, I will battle you here and now," said Yasei, kicking his sword up until it was in his hand. Naruto frowned at him before unsheathing his own. "Why?" asked Naruto. "I want you prepared. When you were a shinobi you still your heart, when you became a soul reaper you let it become your weakness. I'm going to correct that. Also it's time you learned of our true power," said Yasei. "True power?" said Naruto as Yasei got into a stance. "Currently when you enter Bankai we are 2 different beings, I the sword, you the wielder. But once we use our true power we will no longer be 2 beings, but 1 being with 2 souls," said Yasei. "Does that only occur when using this true power?" asked Naruto. "When you master the power, it won't be like that," said Yasei. Yasei charged at Naruto. Naruto brought his sword up and blocked the attack with everything he had. He threw Yasei back, but Yai flipped and landed before flash stepping towards Naruto. Naruto too flash stepped, before their blades collided. Naruto threw Yasei back, before spinning around and stopping the attack from behind. Naruto pulled away, before the 2 of them met in the air. This is going to be a long battle, thought Naruto as Yasei threw him back. Naruto righted himself and bounced off the wall, before he knew it Yasei had kneed him in the gut, hard, before grabbing him by his hair and slamming him into the ground. Naruto turned around and blocked the sword that was inches from his face. Naruto threw out a hard kick that caught Yasei in his face, before he was stopped. Naruto held out his hand and began a chant. Sprinkled on the bones of the beast. Sharp tower, red crystal, steel ring. Move and become the wind. Stop and become the calm. The sound of warring spears fills the empty castle. Hado 63 Thunder Roar Cannon. Yelled Naruto, firing a massive yellow blast at Yasei. Yasei held out his blade. Lightning Gale. Yelled Yasei, slashing the sword and firing a blast of wind and blur lightning. The two attacks collided, but the lightning gale absorbed the cannon and contained. Naruto jumped out the way only to be hit across the back by a blade of wind that cut him badly. Naruto landed on the ground and glared at Yasei. "Impressive, but still not to my standards," said Yasei. Naruto held up his blade before firing out a lightning gale. Yasei was shocked that Naruto had used the attack after only seeing it once. The attack blasted Yasei back into the wall, but it wasn't as powerful as Yasei thought it was as he easily got up, but noticed that he was hurt more on the inside than out. Almost like Naruto had aimed it that way. Yasei was brought out of his thoughts as he blocked an attack from Naruto. Yasei was pushed back until he hit the wall and stopped. Naruto looked at Yasei, who was glaring at him. Naruto understood that the time for playing was over. Both vanished and reappeared a number of times with their blades deadlocked, until one of them was blown into the ground by the other. When the smoke cleared, it revealed Yasei, back in his wolf form. "Good," said Yasei. Naruto appeared next to him panting. "I never knew you had a human form," said Naruto. "That's because I can only sustain it for so long. You have me a good run, boy, and as I said we would become one inside our true Bankai," said Yasei as Naruto got up. "What is the name?" "There is no fancy name. It is a more powerful extinction of the original Bankai we shared," said Yasei as both of them glowed for a brief minute. Back in the real world, Naruto seemed to wake up from his time to find it was late night and sitting next to him was Haku. She looked at Naruto before waving. "Hey Haku-chan. What are you doing here?" asked Naruto. "Nothing. I was walking around when I saw you sitting here. I decided to come and pay you a visit," said Haku. Naruto sat up and yawned. "That's nice of you, Haku-chan," said Naruto, laying back down. Both looked up into the sky and all they could see was stars. Karakura town slept easily, leaving the two of them to their silence. Haku seemed to have something on her mind and was bothered. "All right, spill, what's the matter, Haku?" asked Naruto, looking at her. "You held back on that girl and her guards," said Haku in a near icy tone. Naruto looked at Haku. "Yeah, I did. Not because I wanted to either," said Naruto, only to find an angry Haku on top of him and pinning his hands above his head. "Then why?" asked Haku, staring into his eyes. "I don't know. When I first saw her I thought that it was nothing, but as the fight dragged on I realized that it was my fault that she became a hollow, because I wasn't the guardian she needed," said Naruto, only to get slapped by Haku. Naruto looked at Haku to find her crying. "You tired your best. That's all anyone could ask for, even her," said Haku. Naruto looked away. "What if my best isn't enough, Haku?" asked Naruto, looking away from her. All Haku did was smile. That one smile seemed brighter than the sun at the moment. "Then you'll have to try a little harder," said Haku, getting up. Naruto was about to replay when Renji ran up. "Naruto, we got problems," yelled Renji. "What kind of problems, Renji?" asked Naruto, looking at his brother. "Ichigo's power signature just up and vanished a while ago," said Renji. Naruto put his hand on his chin. "Shinji, you bastard. Renji, go and tell Toshiro he's in charge until I return. I have to take care of something important," said Naruto as he vanished. Haku crossed her arms over her chest. "What do you think he's up to?" she asked. "Knowing him, probably going to set some things straight," said Renji as Haku vanished. With Naruto appeared near an abandoned part of the city and slipped out Hijiji. He looked around, before taking a lung full of air. "Shinji, get your ass out here now," yelled Naruto. Naruto felt the presence of two people. Neither was Shinji. He turned around to find a girl who looked around 19, standing at 5 feet 6, black hair in a long braid, wearing glasses, and a high school uniform. The other was a tall man, curly blonde-haired, wearing a black suit with a white shirt under it. Naruto turned to face them and noticed that both of them had Zanpakuto. "Who the hell are you two?" The man smiled. "It's not nice to cruise in front of a lady. I am Rojiro, but most people call me Rose," said the man, bowing. "I am Lisa. You have no business in our area, Soul Reaper," Lisa glaring at Naruto. Naruto laughed. "Damn, you remind me of my wife Nanao. But the reason I'm here is that my friend Ichigo vanished and nobody was able to feel his power," said Naruto. Lisa raised a brow. "He can't mean little Nanao?" thought Lisa. "Oh, then how come you came here?" asked Rose as Naruto pointed to his nose. You can fool the sixth sense, but not the nose, said Naruto as both of them put their hands on their swords. Are we going to do this the easy way or the hard way? Asked Lisa, putting her hand on her hilt. Please say easy. I want to get back to sleeping, said Rose, holding his sword sideways while grabbing the hilt. Naruto smirked at them, before unsheathing his sword. Sorry, but that's not about to happen, said Naruto, holding it out in the standard style. Both Lisa and Rose Flash stepped into battle, while Naruto blocked both their attacks. Naruto threw Lisa off, before ducking a slash from Rose. Naruto countered, by stabbing at Rose, only to find Lisa's sword in the way of it. Rose brought his sword down to Naruto's shoulder, only to find a small shield of wind in the way. Naruto forced more power out and blew them both back. Lisa looked at Rose. Rose nodded, before sheathing his sword. Beat Lisa and you can follow her to our base, said Rose. That sounds a little unfair, don't you think, Rose-san, said Naruto. Lisa growled at him. Why, because I'm a girl? Asked Lisa. Naruto snorted. Hell no, I'm no East. My wife could kick my ass. I mean that it's unfair that we may both be bloody, said Naruto. Lisa, please be casual, he's a captain, said Rose. I know, said Lisa as Rose vanished. Naruto and Lisa both vanished and reappeared, sparks flying. With Soifun. Soifun was in her office doing some paperwork when she felt a presence in her office. She looked up to see a man that looked like Naruto standing there. In his hand was a red sheathed katana, and a red bracer. Soifun grabbed her sword before the man sat down. Who the hell are you? Asked Soifun, glaring at the man. The man rubbed his chin before smirking. I guess you could call me Naruto's brother. Anyway, that's not why I'm here, said the man as Soifun sat back down, but kept a firm grip on her sword. Then why are you here? Asked Soifun. The man smiled before placing the items on the desk. Tell the brat that his brother says goodbye, said the man before he vanished in a flash of red. Hacho Mundo. Kyuubi appeared just outside of Nexus domain and got the chills. He made an Odashi appear, before he began to walk into the fortress. As he walked, low-level hollows appeared. He smirked at them, before drawing his sword and destroying nearly 100 of them, before sheathing it. Vermin like you could never even glance at me. Nexus, get your sorry hollow ass out here. You invaded my domain and now you have to face the king of hell. Yelled Kyuubi, flaring his Ritsu. For a king you sure make nose like a child, came a voice next to Kyuubi. Kyuubi jumped as a sword smashed into the ground. Kyuubi looked and saw that man that had been described to him by Yamamoto. You must be Nexus? Can't say I'm pleased RD to meet you, said Kyuubi, smirking at him. A man in his late 30s early 40s, gray eyes, long gray hair, gray cloak, a sword with a hilt of bone, and a guard that looks like a dragon's head. This is Nexus, thought Kyuubi. Nexus removed his sword from the ground. And if I am Kyuubi Dono? Asked Nexus, glaring at Kyuubi with his gray eyes. You hurt my little brother by pulling that stunt you did. Sending that girl to try and kill him. That wasn't nice, Nexus, said Kyuubi. Nexus smirked at Kyuubi. What are you going to do about it? Asked Nexus. That's easy, I'm going to send you into oblivion, you stinking hollow, said Kyuubi as he flared his powers to max. With Lady Wind, Charm clutched her hand to her heart as she fell to her knees. Her vassals came to her side and helped her up. Charm had tears running down her face. My lassie, is something wrong? Asked her closet vassal, a young girl. Yes, child, Lord Kyuubi is about to die, said Charm, crying for her friend. Kyuubi and Nexus blades clashed, sending out shockwaves of pure force each time their mighty blades hit one another. Their strength so colossal that it was ripping apart the ground they stood on and caused thunder and lightning to appear in the clouds above. Kyuubi pulled back with a spinning slash, before thrusting his sword forward and unleashing a wave of red Ritsu at Nexus. Nexus knocked the attack away, towards the upper part of his castle. The attack hit, destroying a tower. Kyuubi charged again and did a downward slash at Nexus. Nexus countered with a side slash. Both took a blow, making them both growl in anger rather than pain at being hit. Kyuubi jumped back and examined his damaged side. The wounds were already healing, as was Nexus's wound. It seemed that the damage done to either of them would heal if it wasn't charged with Ryutsu. If we want to hurt each other, Nexus, we're going to have to stop dancing and fight for real, said Kyubi, charging some Ritsu to his blade and positioning it downwards. Nexus held his blade behind him as his Ritsu charged as well, but his was a gray in color. I agree Kyubi, yelled Nexus. Roar! Yelled Kyubi, slashing his blade across the ground and letting the energy fly. As the power of the demon lord flowed, it destroyed the very air it touched as well as the ground below. Vanish! Yelled Nexus, slashing at the air and sent his energy flying as a counter. The two powers clashed and held each other, almost in a stalemate, before exploding outwards. Nexus raised his hand to block the smoke as Kyubi descended on him. Nexus raised his sword to block. When the sword came down, a large crater appeared in the ground beneath Nexus. The sky above them seemed to open up as their powers seemed to rise to new heights. Nexus grabbed Kyubi's arm and threw him over his shoulder. He opened his mouth to unleash a gray-black Sero blast. Kyubi held his palm out and gathered energy. The two unleashed their powers on each other and the blasts knocked them both back. Kyubi hit the wall and pulled himself out. Nexus rolled on the ground, before flipping himself upright. Nexus looked at Kyubi before vanishing. Kyubi almost didn't notice the attack come out of thin air, but he was quick enough to escape the blade. He looked at Nexus, who was just as calm as he had been a few seconds ago. Kyubi then felt it, a thin cut on his face. He wiped the blood away, before vanishing and attacking Nexus with an upward slash. Nexus blocked the attack and then threw a kick out so powerful that Kyubi was sure that most of his ribs would have been busted if he didn't reinforce it with Ryutsu. Nexus caught Kyubi in the gut and sent him flying. Kyubi landed on a boulder hard and coughed up blood. This didn't make sense to the great demon lord. At first they stood on even footing, but now it seemed like Nexus was toying with him. He also noticed a slight difference in power. He assumed that it was nothing and skill would determine the winner of this battle, but Nexus' power rose slowly. Kyubi didn't want to use any of his real strength as it was still too soon into the battle, but at this rate he would die. Kyubi stood and glared at Nexus. I was hoping to save this for later in the battle, but you're a little too strong, said Kyubi as his sword broke. Kyubi's kimono top burned, leaving only Kyubi in his pants. Red fur. His face changed slightly so it was a bit sharper. His hair grew to the point it was past his back. His claws grew a little longer and all 9 of his tails gained a foot in length. It's real now, Nexus, yelled Kyubi. Kyubi vanished and appeared in front of Nexus. Nexus was so stunned by Kyubi's speed that he didn't even have time to block the punch that blasted him into his own castle. Nexus shot up into the air, but felt Kyubi behind him. He turned his head and was met with a red blast of power. Nexus hit the ground and quickly got up. He had multiple cuts as well as a large one across his chest. Hinata was shocked. Her master was losing a battle. She pulled her sword about to intervene, but was stopped by her father. Now my dear, it would be rude to interrupt Lord Nexus's battle, said Orochimaru. Hinata looked at Orochimaru like he was insane. Are you mad, father? Lord Nexus is in danger and we must help him, yelled Hinata, preparing to intervene. Orochimaru walked forward and smirked. Foolish child. Do you think I would serve someone weaker than myself? No, the truth is that I fear Nexus more than any other being in existence. Even though he appears laid back, even then his power shakes me to the core, said Orochimaru with his eyes focused on Nexus. Nexus allowed his dragon-like fangs to show. However, it was in the form of a grin. Kyubi hovered in the air as Nexus began to laugh. This made Kyubi stop glaring at Nexus. It wasn't a light laugh. It was a laugh that promised pain. It was a laugh that promised death. It was so filled with darkness that even death would keep a distance from it. Nexus grinned. Oh, the joy of it all. I'm sure that at this moment you're on even footing with Naruto. Hinata tells me that the boy is a lot more powerful, he just needs motivation is all, said Nexus. Kyubi growled. Leave him out of this, Nexus, yelled Kyubi. Nexus put his hand over his eyes and began to laugh. I wish I could, Kyubi, but he is the one I want to fight most, even if he is not the most powerful. He is the one I am destined to do battle with, said Nexus with a grin on his face. Kyubi roared, before disappearing and reappearing in front of Nexus with a spinning axe kick. Nexus blocked the attack with his hand, making Kyubi's eyes widen. Nexus threw Kyubi back. Kyubi skid on the ground using his claws to dig into the earth. He glared at Nexus, before opening his mouth and firing a large beam of red Ryutsu at Nexus. Nexus held out his fingers and swiped it to the side. Kyuubi growled at him. It seemed that now he wasn't even trying. Kyuubi decided to take this battle to another level. He inked his body in his Ryutsu, ensuring that he was at max power. Kyuubi charged at Nexus. He was moving so fast that the drift behind him was ripping into the ground in a straight line. Kyuubi appeared in front of Nexus and threw out a powerful punch. Nexus blocked with his blade, but he was still skidding back from the sheer force of power. Nexus countered with a bala. Kyuubi knocked it away, before unleashing holy hell on Nexus in the form of a rapid combo of slashes, punches, kicks, and tail stabbings. Once the long chain of attacks was done, Kyuubi grabbed Nexus by his leg and threw him into the air. Kyuubi followed up by blasting him with his most power Ryutsu blast that destroyed the clouds. As smoke floated around Nexus, Kyuubi hoped that he had finished the madman off for good. It was not to be, as the smoke glared and there stood Nexus. His jacket was gone, as was his shirt. His left eye was closed as blood dripped down his face. He had large scars on his arms as well as other places. "Impossible," said Kyuubi. "Not impossible. Right before that blast hit him, I unleashed my most powerful Sero in this form. It took some of my power, but I will live," said Nexus. "This is not good. He still hasn't awakened his true power and I've used up a lot of my strength. What's worse is that I'm not healing right. More slowly. Must have concentrated his Ryutsu to leave injuries like this," thought Kyuubi. As the hits that he had received were starting to take effect on him. "I commend you on your power. However, you have only seen 90% of my power in this form. Perhaps I should also take it to the next level of power," said Nexus. Kyuubi's eyes widened before he opened his mouth to fire off his beam. He wasn't going to give this monster the change to become something more evil than it already was. He fired his beam from his mouth. "Sleep no more, Nexus," said Nexus as his body exploded into nothing as the beam hit. Kyuubi looked around. "Did I get him?" asked Kyuubi. "No," came a voice from behind Kyuubi as he was slammed hard enough to send him flying forward. Kyuubi rolled on the ground before he turned and looked at the person who attacked him. Standing before him was Nexus, but instead of the man he was just fighting there stood a monster. Even demons had monsters they feared, and this was Kyuubi's. Nexus now wore what appeared to be bone-wood armor with rib-like bones sticking out. On his back was a set of wings. He had gloves on that had claws that were pulled backwards. He had on shin guards, but the two most fearsome things about him was the dragon-like helmet he wore and the broadsword that looked like it came from England. Kyuubi paled. This was a true monster from the darkness. Kyuubi steeled himself for this fight. Kyuubi prepared to charge, but was slashed across the chest. Kyuubi jumped back and grabbed his chest. He looked at where he was standing a second ago and saw that Nexus was just within striking range of that blade. He realized that as he prepared to move, Nexus had vanished and Kyuubi didn't even see him. "Just what the hell am I dealing with?" thought Kyuubi. As if Nexus heard his thoughts, he answered. "You're dealing with a being that will be forever," said Nexus. "Not if I have anything to say about it. Vanish from this plane into Obliven," yelled Kyuubi, firing all the power he had from his body. "Not even close," said Nexus, unleashing a grayish-black blast from his sword. The two beams collided, but Kyuubi's attack was pushed all the way back into himself. Kyuubi screamed as he seemed to vanish from all the power. Orochimaru and Hinata appeared next to Nexus after he reverted back to his default form. "That was an excellent display of power, Master. You wiped him from existence," said Orochimaru. "I'm not so sure about that, Orochimaru. He was a demon lord after all. He may have escaped and still be alive. All I felt was his power vanish, as if it was never there," said Nexus as he and his top-ranked commanders walked back into the palace. With Naruto was starting to really get pissed off. This girl was strong, almost like a captain. Naruto jumped back as she hit the ground again, sending a shockwave though it. "Damn, you're as deadly as Nanao is," said Naruto, making Lisa stop. "Nanao? You know Nanao-chan?" asked Lisa. "Yeah, she's my wife. What's it to you?" asked Naruto, sheathing his sword as he realized the battle was over. "I used to look after her as a child when she wandered into the barracks of the 8th Division. Tell me, how is she doing?" asked Lisa. Naruto smiled. "She's doing well. Hoping for kids soon, said Naruto. Lisa smiled. You must not be too bad if Nanao married you. Come on. We're heading towards our base, said Lisa as they both took off. Inside the base, Ichigo was slammed into the dirt by a blonde-haired girl with ponytails, wearing a red jacket, and on her face was a skeletal mask that sports a prominent horn centered on the forehead with a row of diamond-shaped markings over the eyebrows. Shinji looked at Ichigo with a bored expression on his face, until he was tapped on his shoulder by a man with gray hair tapping his shoulder. Shinji looked at the man. Yes, Kensai? Asked Shinji. Lisa has returned with Naruto. All right then, said Shinji looking at the two who entered. He walked over to him and gave him a once-over. Welcome Naruto to our little hideaway, said Shinji. It's nice, said Naruto. A girl with grin hair ran up to Naruto and gave him a once-over. He's cute, said the girl. Who are you? Asked Naruto, a bit freaked out by this girl. Sorry about that, Mr. Uzumaki. My name is Mashiro Kuna, said the girl. The one training Ichigo is Hiyori, said Lisa as Ichigo was again slammed into the dirt. She's working him over a bit. His girlfriend Tatsuki won't like that, said Naruto only to dodge a rock that nearly hit him. She's a bit extreme, but she's tough, said Rose, who was accompanied by a man with an afro and glasses. Naruto looked at him. Somewhat remembering Guy-sensei. You are? Asked Naruto. The man adjusted his glasses. My name is Ravu, but everyone calls me Love, said Love. I'm Kensai. The best hand-to-hand fighter here, said Kensai. A large man walked over and bowed politely. I'm Hashigenim, but everyone calls me Hachi, said the large man. Alright Shinji, you got me cornered here. I feel the barrier long before I saw it, so what do you want to talk about? Shinji smiled. I knew you were smart Naruto, but this is rich. You see, I've been noticing that we wizards are in the same power scope as the Arrancar without our masks on. The only ones we need them for are the higher-ups, as Ichigo found out. You see, like Ichigo, I'm going to offer you training, said Shinji. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Why? Asked Naruto. Shinji looked at Naruto before grinning. You're fighting an enemy that is several times more powerful than you. I saw how you failed to kill that girl Hinata, even though Yo had the power to do so, said Shinji. Naruto didn't even look at him. Hollows are alright for practice against the Ajuka's level hollows, but we're dealing with Arrancar. Our cousins on the other end of the family, said Shinji. Naruto glared at Shinji. What the hell is that supposed to mean, Shinji? Asked Naruto. Shinji grinned, before his mask appeared. The mask was a double-mouthed pharaoh mask with a short flowing hood beneath the back of his neck. He drew his sword while attacking Naruto, who just barely got his sword out. It means that your training for the up-and-coming war has begun, Naruto. And you'd better be ready to fight to the death, said Shinji. Zara. Another chapter done and on the way. Killjoy. We hope you enjoyed. Zara. Soon everything is going to come out, and you don't want to miss what happens. Ichigo was thrown into a wall. The same wall that Naruto had just been thrown into a few seconds beforehand. It had been 3 days since Naruto joined him for training, and it was Kensai who oversaw his training. Naruto was only using his Senkai to battle the older man, but he was losing ground and fast. Kensai didn't pull punches. What's the matter, you two? Are we going too hard on you? Asked Hyoki, glaring at them. I'm getting sick of her, said Ichigo as he sat up slightly. No bullshit there, said Naruto, standing. Both had blood dripping from their heads. Kensai spat out some water. This is getting annoying. How can you hope to become any stronger if you always relay on your Bankai in a battle? Asked Kensai. Naruto stood up and let his Ritsu flare to max. I was seeing how strong you were, said Naruto as he vanished and appeared behind Kensai. Kensai spun around and powered up his energy blast. Naruto fired off his own lightning blast. The two collided and made a massive dust cloud. Both Naruto and Kensai skidded back from the force of the attack, and both were smirking. You're going to have to do a lot better than that kid, said Kensai. Naruto smirked. I was thinking the same thing, old guy, said Naruto as they both jumped into the air. With Hinata. Hinata lay on the couch in the largest room watching as her two guards battled each other. They had decided to train, but Hinata was bored. She turned her head slightly when Nexus entered the room. Nexus didn't seem to want anything, and was just looking around. Is something wrong, Lord Nexus? Asked Hinata, sitting up. Yes. I was looking for Kane as I needed him to deliver a message to Aizen for me, said Nexus. Lord Nexus. Kane took 2 of his warriors and went to the human world, said Koden as he and Kogan stopped sparring. Nexus's eyes narrowed. I know that I allow you freedom to do as you please, but at least you check with me before you do anything. Hinata, take a group of soldiers and find Kane. When you do, contact me, said Nexus as he stepped into the shadows. Hinata stood up. I don't need any more soldiers than I already have. Kogan. Let's go, said Hinata as she opened up a portal. With Rangaku was enjoying herself. She hadn't had time to herself in about 2 days. She walked down the street turning heads. Rangaku knew that she was a knockout, but that didn't stop her from longing for the one person she loved the most. Rangaku acted out at times, but it was all fun and games. Rangaku stopped walking as she felt a massive amount of Ritsu. What the hell? Have they decided to launch another attack so soon? Thought Rangaku. In the sky, a portal opened up and 4 figures stepped out. The largest figure was a good 7 feet tall. He wore no jacket, but had a skull tattoo on his back, no hair. A small bone fragment could be seen on his jaw that looked like a goatee. A hole where his heart should be, black eyes, and his sword was a katana. The second figure was a female with short pink hair that fell over her golden eyes. She stood at 5 feet 3. Voluptuous body that made men lust after her. Her bone fragment was 3 small gems over her left eye. She wore a black jacket that barely hid her blue pants that were unzipped and hugged her legs and hips. Her sword was short compared to the others and was a bit wider. The last figure was a tall guy with brown hair and a wise smirk on his face. Hanging off his jaw was a set of teeth. He wore a black jacket, black pants, and his sword was a naginata. Kane looked at them. He looked a tad different. His mask no longer looked like that of a tiger's, but a lion. He now wore all black. I don't care what you do, but make sure you take as many human souls as possible, said Kane. It will be our pleasure. Kane-sama, said the woman as they all vanished. Kane looked around until a figure appeared before him. It was a soul reaper. A female at that. Kane smirked, before he drew his blade. It's been a while since I enjoyed a female body like yours, miss, said Kane, putting his sword to her throat. How about to burn, bastard? Yelled Rangaku. Rangaku glared at him, before releasing her full power. She charged at Kane and smashed her blade into his chest, or attempted to. Kane blocked the strike with ease. Kane kicked Rangaku in the gut and she went skidding. Rangaku held out her hands and fired off a few quick demon arts. Kane blocked them all with his sword and laughed. Rangaku charged and slashed at Kane. Kane began to sidestep her attacks. Kane grabbed her blade and yanked it away, before he slashed back and cut her across her chest. Rangaku stopped as her robes fell of her, leaving her body bare to his eyes and bleeding. Rangaku covered herself with her arms and blushed. Damn, I knew you had a fine body, lady. Any last words before I take you to my bed? Asked Kane. Rangaku smirked. Look behind you, said Rangaku. Kane turned around and was wide-eyed as a large dragon made of ice slammed into him and sent him to the ground. Toshiro appeared next to Rangaku and gave her his captain's robe. Are you all right, Rangaku? Asked Toshiro. Rangaku nodded as she tied the robe tight using her sash. Thank you, Toshiro. If you hadn't come when you did, I'm sure I would have been and killed, said Rangaku, taking up her sword and preparing to fight with her captain. Toshiro looked at her. You are my partner and friend, Rangaku. I won't let anything happen to you even if I die, said Toshiro, making Rangaku blush. Rangaku smirked. Well then, I better make sure you live, said Rangaku. Kane laughed. As touching as this is, I'm bored. Let's get this battle over with. I have better things to do, said Kane, charging at them. With the lady, she landed on the top of a building and looked down on the humans with a sneer. Such filthy creatures, said the woman. You're one to talk, came a voice from behind her. The lady raised a brow at the woman. Do I know you? Asked the lady. The black-haired woman drew her sword. My name is Haku Momochi, daughter of 4th seed of the 11th Division Zabuza Momochi, said Haku, looking at the other woman. She looked at her before she smirked. I guess I can give you my name. They call me Shira, said the woman. Haku snorted. That could call you sperm dumpster and I wouldn't give a flying fuck, started Haku only to get kicked in the gut and skid across the roof, before she lost her footing and rolled close to the edge. Shira lowered her right leg. "That wasn't nice, Haku-chan," said Shira, walking closer to Haku. Haku stood and threw her sword into the air. "No more games, bitch. Aim and freeze the seas. Chukatsu Fenikusu, 1. Yelled Haku as her blade shattered and reformed on her right arm as a shield with a blade coming out either end. Haku jumped into the air and flew at Shira. Shira jumped back as Haku slashed the railing of the building. It instantly began to freeze. Shira jumped into the air before she fired off 3 Sero blasts. Haku slammed her shield into the ground and ice barrier formed. Haku pulled the shield up and aimed at Shira with her palm. "Ye Lord. Mask of flesh and bone, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man, truth and temperance. Upon this sinless wall of dreams unleash but slightly the wrath of your claws." Hado 33. Sokatsui. Yelled Haku, unleashing a massive wave of blue fire. Shira saw the attack and jumped into the sky only to find Haku behind her already prepared for another attack, but the incantation was different. "Ye Lord. Mask of flesh and bone, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Let the strength of the world's forces combine and destroy evil." Hado 46. Lightning Gale. Yelled Haku, unleashing a massive wave of lightning and swirling wind at Shira. Shira crossed her arms, but took the hit and was sent into the air. Haku jumped and cut the woman. Shira screamed as she began to slowly freeze. They both glared at each other before Shira roared in anger and seemed to heat up before the effects of the ice attack vanished. "You bitch! You're going to pay for trying to turn me into an icicle," yelled Shira, unsheathing her sword. Shira vanished and appeared behind Haku with a slash. Haku turned around and blocked with her shield. The force of the attack was so strong that Haku was sent skidding back. Haku jumped back and felt that her arm bone was cracked. "Time to change tactics. Tuketsu Fenikusu. Attack mode," said Haku, holding out her arm. Her shield changed. It shafted and then hugged her arm. The blades vanished and became a single blade sticking out the side. A small glowing blue circle appeared on the palm of the glove that formed on her hand. Haku charged at Shira, who stood her ground. Shira felt a cold wave and jumped as Haku smashed her hand into the ground. Not only did the ground explode, it froze over. Haku's hand was smoking slightly from the extra energy that was coming off her hand. "You're very lucky. Normally a hollow isn't able to move fast enough to escape that attack. This is only the 6th time I've used this form of my shike," said Haku, standing up straight with her legs parted slightly and in attack position. Her hair blowing slightly in the wind. With tall man and small, the smaller of the two hollows sat in the air, while the taller of the two stood up. The taller one was rubbing the side of his face. "This is getting boring," said the taller of the Teo hollows. The little one smirked. "Relax. They should be here any second," said the small one when a second later 3 people appeared. One was bandaged up, while the other 2 looked ready for war. "Ha! 2 opponents to battle tonight," said Akaku, grinning like the madman he was. He was about to draw his sword when Yumachika put his hand in front of him. "Wait. You're still slightly injured and I haven't had a chance to fight yet. Besides, something so ugly should be killed," said Yumachika, smirking. Akaku nodded and smirked. "All right. I want to see what you 2 can do," said Akaku. "All right. Hey Yumachika, I'll take the small one," said Renji, looking at the one he was sure had just a bit more power. "That's fine with me, Renji. The big one had just a bit more skill," said Yumachika. The big one smirked. "I'm going to enjoy this. My name is Ziger," said the large one. The smaller one spun his naginata. "I'm Keto," said the smaller one. Renji swapped his hand across his blade. "Roar! Zabameru!" yelled Renji. "Bloom! Fuji Kujaku!" said Yumachika. "Let's get this over with," said Ziger, taking his sword out. Keto held his naginata in front of him. "You got that right, brother," said Keto. Zara. "Done. Killjoy." "At last, Zara. It took a few days, but it's done." Killjoy. "True, it was entertaining. Zara. It was a good flow." Killjoy. "Enjoy." People to Shiro's side stepped a sword swing that nearly took off his head, before Rangaku appeared behind Kane and slashed at his back. Kane turned around and blocked her sword strike with his arm. Kane threw her off of his arm, before slashing at her. Rangaku moved out the way, but was still cut on her arm. Toshiro appeared next to Kane and slashed him across his chest, leaving ice to appear around the cut. Kane smirked before it broke. Rangaku and Toshiro looked on in awe at what had happened. "Fools! You can't hurt me with such weak attacks," laughed Kane. Toshiro growled. "You're right. Time to take this fight to the next level," said Toshiro as he held out his sword. "Bankai," said Toshiro using the legendary Dragon of Ice. "Dagger and Hirenmaru," yelled Toshiro as wings appeared on his back. 3 large ice-like flowers appeared above his head, a long ice tail, claws on his feet and left hand, and a dragon's head on his hand and sword. Rangaku also activated her own sword. "Growl Ashcat," said Rangaku as her sword scattered. Kane smirked. "This is getting interesting," said Kane as he prepared to charge at them. With Renji, Yumashika, and Akaku. Akaku sat down and watched as Yumashika battled with Zager. Yumashika was actually doing some damage to him. Akaku knew that Yumashika was holding back by not using any Kido, which he was pretty good at. Akaku then looked over at Renji, his student. Renji was strong and was holding the smaller of the two in a stalemate. Yumashika was using his speed to keep his enemy on his toes, but it wasn't enough and he got slashed across the chest. Yumashika grabbed his chest and got down on one knee. Zager appeared before him and brought his sword down. Yumashika stopped the sword with his own before jumping back. He began to pant and before he realized it he was slugged in the face hard and sent into the wall. Yumashika got up and spat out blood. "Such an ugly attack that was," said Yumashika wiping off his cheek. Zager laughed. "You're not strong enough to fight me on an even level, Shinigami," said Zager. "Maybe not using this form of my Shinkai," said Yumashika. Akaku became confused. "This form?" said Akaku. Yumashika held up his blade. "My friend, forgive me. You see, I'm not a Tourei warrior like you. My true skills lay in Kido. So I shall reveal my true Shinhai to you for the first time. Split and deviate Ruroyiro Kujiku." "One," said Yumashika as his eyes turned azure blue. His blade turned into azura pea feather like vines. Akaku looked at the sword. "Yumashika, once you beat this bastard, you and I are going to have a long talk," said Akaku. Yumashika looked at his friend. "I'm not looking forward to this conversation," said Yumashika. Zager charged at Yumashika and was about to slash him again, only for the vines to fly at Zager and wrap around him, and began to drain his energy. "I don't like fighting using this form of my Zanpakuto, but you leave me no choice," said Yumashika as he took off a few of the petals and chewed on them, healing his wounds. Zager began to shrivel up and soon turned to ash. Yumashika's sword went back to its sealed state. He then felt a hand on his shoulder. "Now about that little talk," said Akaku with a face that promised pain if he didn't like the answer. Yumashika looked at Akaku. "I hid it from everyone in our division as mine is a Kido-type Zanpakuto and everyone else's is a melee, because I was afraid of how you would react towards it, so I was able to make an alternate form to my Zanpakuto," said Yumashika, only to be slugged. "You damn idiot. I trusted you with the secret of my Zanpakuto, but you couldn't trust me," yelled Akaku. Yumashika looked down. "Sorry," said Yumashika. "You don't know the half of it," said Akaku, making Yumashika sweat as Akaku gained a menacing aura. With Haku was getting really pissed off at Shira. No matter how hard she tried, Shira avoided her attacks. Shira appeared before Haku and slashed at her. Haku jumped back quick enough so the only wound she got was a small scratch under her eye. Haku wiped the blood away. Shira swung her sword up and put it on her shoulder. "Haku-chan, this is getting boring. How about you just die already?" said Shira as her eyes widened as she prepared to charge. Haku growled. "I'll show you boring," said Haku as she was about to attack, only for a small portal to open up and Akoden stepped out looking rather pissed off. Shira went on the offensive and was easily scared. "Koden, what the hell are you doing here?" asked Shira in a bit of a shaky voice. Koden glared at her, before he vanished and appeared before her. He grabbed her by her face and slammed her into the dirt. Just as Shira was about to get up, Koden appeared before her and grabbed her by the throat and easily lifted her into the air, choking her. "Hinata-sama has better things to do than track your worthless master down. I would enjoy killing you if I wasn't under orders to bring your worthless hide back," said Koden, smacking her across her face. Shira was bleeding from her mouth and a few cuts on her body. "Whatever," said Shira as Koden released her. "Come, we have to get together with the others," said Koden, opening a gate. He made sure Shira was in front of him the whole way. "Goodbye Haku-chan," said Shira as the gate closed. Haku's Zanpakuto reverted back to normal. "What the hell was that about?" said Haku as she flash-stepped over to Akaku and Yumachika. She arrived and found that Yumachika was in a leg locker from Akaku. "You bastard, how dare you keep something like that from me, your friend?" yelled Akaku. Yumachika yelled as something in his back popped, and from the sounds of it not too good. "Hey, where is Renji?" asked Haku as Renji appeared. He had a few scars, but was all right nevertheless. "The strangest thing just happened in my battle," said Renji as he was stopped by Haku. "Let me guess, a strange Arankar appeared, beat the snot out of the one you were fighting and vanished soon after." "Same thing happened to me, which means that it's going to happen with Captain Hishigaya," said Haku. Renji nodded. "Let's hurry and get over there," said Renji as they all vanished. With Rangaku and Toshiro. Just as Toshiro and Rangaku prepared to really get battling, a girl appeared and glared at Kane, stopping him in his tracks. She then kicked him as hard as she could, sending him into a building. "You peahen, I have better things to do than waste my time gathering you and your worthless lackeys," yelled Hinata. Kane growled. "What are you doing here, Hinata? I was under the impression you didn't want to fight currently," said Kane. Kane was no fool. He knew that this girl already matched his power and knew that she could very well beat him if she wanted to, as she was much faster and had better control over her abilities. "Lord Nexus has need of you," said Hinata. "Bah, Nexus is acting like a fool," said Kane, only to be blasted back by a powerful punch. Hinata glared at him. "Don't you dare speak about Lord Nexus like that while in my presence, scum," said Hinata as she unsheathed her sword. Kane roared at Hinata and charged. Kane prepared to bring down all his might on Hinata's head, but Hinata blocked it with her left hand. Hinata then put the tip of her sword at Kane's face. Hinata cut her hand on the blade and allowed it to mix with her sero. "You shouldn't have pissed me off, Kane," said Hinata. Firing a purple Gran Ray Sero 1. Kane screamed in pain as he was blasted into a building and nearly left for dead if it wasn't for his Hiero 2. Hinata appeared before him and grabbed him by his neck and lifted him in the air. Even though he was about a foot taller than her, Hinata opened a gate and threw Kane into it. Hinata turned back and looked at the Shinigami. "If I wasn't under orders to bring this fool back, I'd kill you all right now. You know the only thing truly stopping me from killing you is Naruto-kun," said Hinata as she jumped back as Haku launched a blast of ice at Hinata. "Stay away from Naruto-kun," yelled Haku as she charged. Hinata waved at them. "I'll settle this matter with you another time. Goodbye," said Hinata as the gate closed. Everyone sheathed their swords. Toshiro looked at them. Everyone returned to headquarters. "This matter is to be discussed in detail with Commander Yamamoto," said Toshiro. Every straightened up. "Yes, Captain," said everyone as they vanished. At Nexus's palace, Hinata, Orochimaru and Hinata's guards stood out of the way as Nexus glared at Kane and his remaining guards from his throne. Nexus then vanished and slugged Kane in the face, nearly ripping his mask off. Kane was blasted across the room and into a wall. Nexus appeared before him and lifted him up into the air, before throwing him to the side. "You damn fool, I should kill you where you are," said Nexus, turning to Kane. Kane growled, but knew better than to draw his sword. "I had things to do, my lord. I wanted to eliminate those fools that we were fighting until you stopped us," yelled Kane. Nexus sighed as he walked around. "It's my fault. I gave you the impression that you didn't have to tell me if you left or not. I need you to at least ask me if you can leave next time. Thanks to your recklessness we lost a powerful member of our group," said Nexus, before looking at Kane. "I shall give you another chance, but if you disobey me again I will kill you, my mistake or not," said Nexus as he prepared to walk away, only for a person to appear in his throne room. The person was a young-looking girl with black hair in 2 pigtails, a slender build with C-cup S, light pink eyes and a mask that covered her left eye, wearing a white-colored, black outlined shirt that ties to her neck, reveals a fair portion of her stomach, and S, reveals her arms from the shoulders down to the elbows, white, schoolgirl-themed skirt, white half-sleeves worn from the elbows down to the wrists, thigh-length black-colored, white outlined boots. Nexus raised a brow at her. And who would you be? Asked Nexus. The person kneeled before them. My name is Lolly. I was sent by Aizen-sama, said Lolly. Nexus thought about it for a second, before he smirked. I know you're Aizen's little toy. What is the message? Asked Nexus. Lolly blushed in anger for a second. Lord Aizen has told me that his plans have been set back by a month and that I was to inform you of this, said Lolly. Nexus nodded. I see, said Nexus standing. It is a long trip back, so stay the night, Lolly, said Nexus looking at Lolly's body in lust. Lolly nodded. Thank you for your kind offer, but no thank you, said Lolly as she was about to leave only to find Nexus in front of her. Nexus smirked at her. Insect, said Nexus. Lolly shivered and knew that it was an order and not a request. She nodded and followed Koger. Hinata walked close to Nexus and smiled. Have you found a new prey to warm your bed, my lord? Asked Hinata in a flirty voice. Nexus looked at Hinata and smiled. Nexus didn't bed Hinata like he did the other women in his army like Shira, because of her power. Hers was a power that he would need if he wanted to succeed in his plans. Yes, I shall bed her, whether she likes it or not, said Nexus walking out of the room. Hinata laughed. She always enjoyed the sound of those weaklings as they begged Nexus to pleasure them. A few recited at first, but all gave in at some point. She especially liked to hear the sounds of the holes that they captured. It always gave her a rush of arousal, that only made her more determined to get Naruto all to herself. Soon Naruto-kun, soon I will write the destiny that was taken from us in life, thought Hinata leaving the room. Back with the others, Toshiro, Rangaku, Haku, Renji, Akaku, and Yumashika stood in front of the screen. Yamamoto. I see. So 3 Arrancar appeared and took your attackers away, said Yamamoto. Yes, Commander. But these were much stronger than Aizen's normal forces. I believe that these came from Nexus's own army, said Toshiro. Yamamoto looked to be in thought. It has become clear to me that Kurokana town has become the stage for this war with the Arrancar and ourselves, said Yamamoto. It's going to get serious. Came a voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see Naruto standing there in his Gegai. Everyone looked at Naruto as he walked closer to the screen. Captain Uzumaki, what is your status? Asked Yamamoto as he knew that Naruto had vanished for a bit. Naruto shrugged. I honestly don't know. I left to train for a bit. I can honestly say that I'm a lot more powerful than I was before. What's going on? Said Naruto. It seems that we have come to a ceasefire with our enemies for the time being, said Yamamoto. Naruto put his hand on his chin. So Aizen has stopped attacking for now, huh? If Nexus decided to hold fire as well, that means they're having problems or they're preparing for the next real attack, said Naruto looking at those who were under his command. I think you should all take this time to gather your Reitsu and be prepared. Yamamoto nodded until Unohana ran into the range of the screen. Naruto, come quickly, Rukia has gone into labor, yelled Unohana. Naruto's eyes widened as he stepped out his Gegai and opened a gate. Toshiro, you're in charge until I get back, said Naruto jumping into the gate. In Gote 13 4th Division Barracks, Nanao and Soifun comforted their co-wife as much as they could, but it was hard to do as she kept screaming in pain. Naruto entered the room and quickly grabbed Rukia's left hand, and his hand was instantly broken by Rukia's grip. You did this to me, you bastard. You will never tap this ass again, yelled Rukia, making Unohana and Aizen wince. Naruto gritted his teeth in pain. Nothing could compare to this, not even that beating he took from Aizen, Jin, and Tosen. Then 2 people walked in and grinned at Naruto. Oh, I remember that look, son. Trust me, I had my hand broken too, said Minato. And I yelled the exact same words at Minato, said Kushina, thinking about that day. I really don't care now. Just get my baby out of me, yelled Rukia. Alright Rukia, just one last push, said Unohana. Rukia screamed as she pushed one last time. Aizen took the baby and cleaned it off. Before she wrapped it in a pink blanket. Aizen handed Rukia the baby and smiled. Congratulations, you two. It's a healthy, beautiful baby girl, said Aizen. What should we name this little one? Asked Rukia, gently holding the now sleeping child. How about Hisana, Naruto, Rukia? Came the voice of Byakuya as he entered the room. Rukia looked at her brother. My elder sister name, asked Rukia. Byakuya nodded. Hasana loved you Rukia and she felt so ashamed that she left you alone. She was a kind person, but she considered that her greatest sin. It would ease her soul to know that you still cared, said Byakuya, hoping that she would name the baby after her dead sister. Naruto looked at Rukia. Well Rukia, it's your call, said Naruto. Rukia smiled at the young girl. Hasana Uzumaki. I like the sound of that, said Rukia. Naruto bent down and kissed Rukia's forehead. You get some rest all right, said Naruto, making Rukia smile at Naruto. I love you Naruto, said Rukia. Naruto smiled back. And I you Rukia, said Naruto as he walked out followed. Once Naruto was in the hall, his eyes narrowed. Yamamoto better have a damn good reason for sending you here, said Naruto as a messenger appeared. I don't like people coming in during family time, said Unohana. Hi Captains Unohana, Uzumaki, and Uzumaki 3. Commander General Yamamoto has called all captains to a meeting. It's too important to ignore, said the man. Naruto looked at the messenger before nodding. All right, let's get moving then, said Naruto as he and Unohana vanished. In the hall of the captains, Naruto and Unohana appeared in their respective positions and awaited Yamamoto's words. Everyone, I'm sorry to take you away from your war preparations, but this is too important to ignore. 48 hours ago the human world could be seen, said Yamamoto, making everyone look at Yamamoto. The Valley of Screams. I ran across it in my early studies at the academy. It appears every 100 years if I'm not mistaken. That is the time when the Soul Society and the human world are closely connected. What is the problem? Asked Naruto. The problem is that blanks have appeared in the human world. This is unacceptable. I want the Shininju found and destroyed before anything can happen. Captain Uzumaki, your previous team has been dissembled until further notice. Put together another team and prepare to apprehend the Shininju, said Yamamoto. Naruto bowed to Yamamoto. Hi Yamamoto-sama, said Naruto as he walked out of the room. Naruto was holding little Hasana inside. He would not see her for some time as he had to return to Karakura town. He sat her down in her crib and prepared to leave. It's not fair, said Rukia, walking into the room and looking at their daughter. You just returned home from an assignment and Yamamoto-sama is already sending you out again Naruto, said Rukia with a sad expression on her face. Naruto gently wrapped his arms around her in a hug and kissed the top of her head. I'm sorry Rukia-chan, I wish I could stay for a lot longer, said Naruto. Rukia smiled, before she turned in his arms and kissed him passionately. You go out there and do your hero thing. Then bring your ass back here so you can hug your child, said Rukia. Naruto nodded, before he walked out of the house. He walked towards the second division to say goodbye to Soifun. He walked into her office to find her with a sword in front of her. What's that Soifun? Asked Naruto, picking up the sword. I have no clue. It came from a man who looked like you. He said it was a gift to you, as well as this, said Soifun, pulling out a bracer. Naruto grabbed the bracer and opened it. It seemed to be a normal bracer, but a letter was attached on the underside of it. Naruto pulled the letter out and unfolded it. Naruto, if you're reading this, that means I'm either dead or in hiding. I had planned to face Nexus and either kill him or take him with me. Anyway, enough of the sad crap. The sword was made using both our Ryutsu, a part of my fang and your blood. The sword works in combination with the bracer. When attacking and you cannot win the battle, call out Kyubi no Konoha and you will have the defense of an army. Your brother and prisoner, Kyubi, said Naruto as he picked up the sword and unsheathed it swiftly. He examined the sword. It looked like an ordinary Zanpakuto, but Naruto could tell by the aura it was far from ordinary. Naruto strapped the sword next to his Zanpakuto and strapped the bracer on his right arm. If Kyubi said it would come in handy, then it most likely would. Naruto turned and gave Soifun a small kiss before vanishing. He appeared in Neneo's office to find her working hard like always. Naruto smirked. You know you work too damn hard for your own good, said Naruto, making Neneo jump out of her seat. Don't do that Naruto-kun. You scared me half to death, said Neneo, putting her hand over her heart. Naruto laughed lightly and then kissed her lightly on the lips. Sorry about that Neneo-chan, said Naruto. It's all right. I've already heard about your mission out. Just be careful, said Neneo. Naruto leaned down and kissed her. Of course Nanao-chan. See you later, said Naruto, vanishing and reappearing in the 5th Squad barracks. Tenten, Rukia front and center, yelled Naruto as they both rushed over to him. Hi, what is it you wish of us, Captain Uzumaki? Asked Tenten. You two are accompanying me to the world of the living, said Naruto. Yes, Captain Uzumaki, said Rukia and Tenten together. Naruto lead them though the Shirati until they came to the gate accuses and found Sasuke and Gaara awaiting them. He had figured that Soifun would send 2 of her people to help out, but he wasn't expecting Gaara and Sasuke. Alright, our mission is to locate the Shininju and either capture it or destroy it, said Naruto. Hi Captain Uzumaki, they all said. Sasuke unsheathed his sword and opened the gate. Before they could enter, Yukitake approached them with a description of the Shininju. They quickly entered the gateway and found themselves in front of Ichigo and a girl. The girl had purple hair, large orange eyes, wearing a schoolgirl's uniform. It seemed she was quite close to Ichigo. She was also around Tatsuki, Chad, and Ryu. Ichigo, stand aside. That girl is coming with us, said Naruto, drawing his sword. Ichigo exited his body. Ryu activated his bow. Tatsuki gathered her powers around her arms, as did Chad. If you want her, you'll have to go though, me Naruto, yelled Ichigo. Naruto raised a brow. Are you prepared to die defending her, my student? Asked Naruto. Ichigo glared at Naruto. With my life, Naruto, said Ichigo. Naruto looked at Sasuke, who nodded. Naruto sighed and sheathed his sword. Those who break the rules are trash and those who abandon comrades are worse than that, said Naruto. We'd rather be trash than worse than trash, said Sasuke. Ichigo looked at them. Naruto, I have a question. Do you remember your life before you became a Shinigami? Asked Ichigo. You'd better ask Rukia-sensei here. He has a better understanding of this kind of stuff than me, said Naruto, scratching the back of his head. While it's not unheard of, it's also extremely rare. Only 1 out of every 1,000 souls will remember, said Rukia. Our odds were higher because we lived with spiritual powers all our lives in a way, said Tenten. Ichigo smiled as was about to thank them when the warriors from last night appeared. Sasuke smirked. Looks like we'll get a fight after all. Light the world around me ablaze. Hanu Osama, 1, yelled Sasuke as a large flaming axe appeared in his hands. Protect and fight for me, Seirei no Suna, 2, slamming her blade into the earth and making a large gourd appear on her back. Puncture all in my sight. Kato 10, 3, said Tenten. Her sword turned into a Chinese long sword with a red cord. Rukia held his sword sight. Spin and cut. Demon Shuriken, yelled Rukia as a large shuriken appeared in his hand. Let the 4 winds howl. Yase K's, yelled Naruto as his sword turned into a large halberd. So you bastards want some of this? Yelled a large man. Yeah, we do. Everyone spread out, yelled Naruto as they quickly moved around. With Sasuke. Sasuke rushed a small, pale man who had a large broadsword. Sasuke swung his axe, but it was blocked by the broadsword. Sasuke was pushed back. Pleased to kill you. My name is Mew, said the man. Sasuke smirked. I'm Sasuke Uchiha, said Sasuke as they charged at each other again. Mew blocked another strike from Sasuke. Sasuke detached from Mew and swung at his gut. Mew didn't expect this and was cut, but instead of bleeding out, the wound was instead sealed. Mew gasped in shock at the pain. He whistled and a few blanks flew to him and healed the wound. Mew chuckled. Good as new, said Mew. Sasuke grinned. Good, now I can cut loose, yelled Sasuke as he cut the ground and let loose a large wave of fire. Mew blocked with his sword, and was blasted into the ground. Mew stood up with many large burns on his body. More blanks appeared and healed him. With Gaara. Gaara stood in place as the only female of the group attempted to attack her from a distance. Fool, that won't work on me. I have an absolute defense, yelled Gaara, raising her hand and sending a large pillar of sand at the Dark One. The Dark One jumped back and reloaded her crossbow. Before she could get off the shot, she was hit by the pillar. Gaara covered her arms and legs in sand and jumped into the sky. The Dark One threw out a kick that was blocked by the sand, and Gaara followed up with a power punch that sent her to the dirt. The female Dark One got up and glared at Gaara. She was bleeding badly before she got up. Bitch, said the Dark One, only to be healed by the blanks. With Tenten. Tenten thrust her sword at the large man with the covered face. The man blocked the attack with just his right club, before he aimed at her head. Tenten blocked the attack, but skidded backwards. Tenten narrowed her eyes and thrust her blade forward. 5 kunai launched from the tip of her sword and impaled the man in his arms. He growled, before flexing his muscles and popping them out. "Well, big guy, we're going to have to parley a little harder," said Tenten as she rushed forward. With Naruto. Naruto had been in a deadlock with a Dark One with chakras. Then they heard it. A whistle. The Dark Ones broke off their assault and flew into the sky. Standing there was a man with white hair and under his arm was Senna. Naruto saw Ichigo fly up after her, so he followed. The leader drew his sword and blocked both Naruto and Ichigo. He then threw Senna over to Benin. "Master," asked Benin, "get her to the Valley of Screams." "I will handle these two fools," said Ganryu. "Hurricane strike," yelled Naruto, unleashing a powerful blast. Ganryu blocked the attack, before he flash-stepped and slashed Naruto across his back. Naruto, not expecting the attack, fell to the ground. "Naruto!" yelled Ichigo, only to be stabbed by Ganryu. "Weakling, and to think it's all for a simple key," said Ganryu as he held out the ribbon Ichigo bought and let it float to the ground. The next day, both Naruto and Ichigo stood on top of the roof listening to the wind. Ichigo was mad at himself for letting her get away. Naruto too was upset at the face that he let his friend down. "Why are we just sitting around? We could be out there doing something to save Senna," yelled Ichigo. Naruto shifted his eyes at Ichigo and looked at him. "Clam down, Ichigo. We're going to go after her," said Naruto, standing up. Ichigo looked at Naruto. "How?" asked Ichigo. Naruto smiled. "Sorry, I don't have a clue. We're trying to save your girlfriend," said Naruto. Ichigo blushed. "Senna is not my girlfriend," said Ichigo. Naruto smirked. "Please kid, that's like saying Rukia wasn't my wife," said Naruto as they both jumped into the sky. Ichigo and Naruto searched for about an hour before Ichigo saw a light come from the river. That headed for the river and saw a gateway that led to a large valley. Naruto pulled out a mic. "Attention, this is Captain Uzumaki. We have located the gate. Myself and substitute Soul Reaper Ichigo Kurosaki are entering the gateway. Coordinates are section 5967, said Naruto. "Negative, Captain. Await official or crush." Naruto smirked as he dropped the headset. "You can't get good headwear these days," said Naruto as they both jumped into the gateway. Gote 13. Yamamoto had called a meeting of captains. All were preset ex-cap Naruto Uzumaki of the 5th Division. "Sir, the Valley Portal has been located by Captain Uzumaki and Subitite Soul Reaper Kurosaki," said Soifun as she had read the report. However, shortly after finding it, he went in after the Dark Ones. "I believe that he intends to finish them off with the help of Kurosaki," said Soifun. Yamamoto slammed his cane onto the ground. "I don't care. We are facing a grave threat at the moment. I have already authorized the use of the Kido cannon," said Yamamoto. Ukitake looked at his master. "Wait a moment, master, shouldn't we at least try to help Naruto?" asked Ukitake, hoping to stall his master and give Naruto a bit of time. "No, we have little time as it is. This emergency session is over," said Yamamoto. Back in the Valley of Screams, they had quickly found Senna bound to what appeared to be a pinwheel. Her eyes were closed. "Senna!" yelled Ichigo. Senna's eyes opened and looked at Ichigo, before they widened in shock. "Ichigo, you came for me," said Senna with tears in her eyes. Ichigo floated up to her and gently touched her face. "Of course I did, Senna," said Ichigo. "Ichigo, move!" yelled Naruto. Ichigo turned only to be slammed into the dirt by the largest members of the Dark Ones. They restrained him while Naruto was held down by kunai with cords attached, pinning him to the wall. "Hello, Shinigami-san," said Ganryu as he appeared. Ichigo glared at him. "Let Senna go, you bastard," yelled Ichigo, only to heaved off the grenade and punched. Now, no need to make demands for a simple key. With her, we Dark Ones will realize our dream of destroying the Soul Society for betraying us," said Ganryu. Naruto and Ichigo's eyes widened. "Are you insane? That's millions of lives at stake," yelled Naruto. Ganryu looked at Naruto. "Silence. You don't know what the court did to us. They took everything from my clan. So what if a few million humans die? I don't care, yelled Ganryu. Naruto smirked. So you bastards got the bad end of the stick, said Naruto as he began to flare his Ryutsu to max. He began to flex. But who gives a damn? I was on the bad end my entire life, yelled Naruto, busting free. Let the four winds howl. Yase K's. So you have a little skill, said Ganryu, only to fill Ichigo's power flare. Bankai, yelled Ichigo, appearing with his black katana and black coat. Naruto's sword reverted back to its sealed form. Ichigo, catch, yelled Naruto, throwing his sword to him. Ichigo caught it in a reverse grip in his left hand. Get Ganryu. I'll handle these bastards, yelled Naruto. Ichigo nodded as Naruto turned and looked at the remaining Dark Ones as he unsheathed his other sword. Jay and Bao both charged at Naruto, preparing to break his bones and cut him to pieces. Naruto pulled out his other sword and blocked them. He pushed back and threw them back with a wave of energy. They both flew back and hit the wall. Naruto held up his sword and grinned. Thank you, Kyuubi tame, said Naruto. Naruto jumped to the side as an arrow flew at him. He looked up to see the woman glaring at him as she made a rapier appear. Get him, you fools. We have to help Genryu-sama, yelled the Benin. Jay and Mew also created katanas from the blanks and charged. Naruto brought his Zanpakuto up and stopped them. He turned his head and saw that Benin had flash-stepped behind him and attempted to price his heart. Naruto flashed out of the way and grinned at them. He sifted his eyes slightly and stopped a few kunai attached to ropes. You bastard, yelled Rian, launching some more. Naruto vanished, before appearing on a cliff. You guys are a long way away from being able to beating a captain, said Naruto. Jay summoned some blacks and inhaled them. Before he vanished, Naruto's eyes widened as a slash appeared on his neck, near his jugular. Naruto put his hand up to his throat and checked it, before he glared at Jay. Impressive. You moved an inch over so the cut wasn't fatal. I won't let you move a second time, yelled Jay as he charged at Naruto. Naruto jumped back, avoiding his strikes, and he constantly blocked the attack. Naruto was starting to sweat and moving about was nothing but a headache, but then he felt his shoulder get pierced. He looked behind him to see Benin had stabbed him. Benin smirked at Naruto. Maybe I'll keep you around as a pet, at least for a few hundred years, Benin. Get away from my husband. Tsugi no Mai, Hakuren, yelled a voice Naruto recognized. Naruto broke the tip of the sword in his shoulder before he jumped away as Benin and Jay were engulfed in ice. Before Naruto could move, Minato appeared on top of the ice cube with his Shinkai and slammed it into the ice. Lightning Blitz, yelled Minato, using a yellow lightning bolt to finish them off. Rukia appeared next to Naruto with a tan cloak on. She helped Naruto up, as Minato landed next to him. Rukia-chan, Chu-san, what are you doing here? Asked Naruto as Rukia helped him up. Minato looked at his son. We're here to rescue dumbass, said Minato. Naruto glared at his father. Last time I checked I was a higher rank than you, said Naruto. Put up with it, you two. We have a house to clean up before Yamamoto fires that damn Kido cannon, said Kushina as she appeared. Naruto, go help Kurosaki-san. We'll handle these three, said Rukia. Naruto nodded. Rukia, be careful, said Naruto as he flash-stepped away. With Ichigo. Ichigo appeared in front of Ganryu and slashed at his with Naruto's Zanpakuto. Ganryu blocked with ease, and kicked Ichigo in his head. Ichigo skidded backwards, before he flew at Ganryu and made an X-slashing motion with the swords, before Ganryu blocked with both of them. Ganryu flipped over and cut Ichigo's shoulder. Ichigo gritted his teeth, before he spun around and slashed at Ganryu. Ganryu blocked the attack and hit Ichigo in his arm, making him drop Naruto's sword. Ichigo was thrown into the wall. He had been having problems with Ganryu since they started fighting. He had cuts all over his body and he was getting ready to use his mask when Ganryu was blasted back by a red Ryutsu blast. Honestly, can't you do anything by yourself? Said Naruto as he stepped next to Ichigo. Naruto, said Ichigo as he stood up as Naruto picked his sword up. Let's finish this bastard off. I have to kiss my little girl goodnight, said Naruto. Hi, said Ichigo as they both charged at Ganryu. Ganryu blocked a strike from Naruto, but got cut across the face by Ichigo. Ganryu fell back and held his face. Naruto appeared before him and aimed his sword at his face. "Let's see you survive this, you bastard!" G-Force Surge, yelled Naruto. A blast of Ryutsu came out of his sword and impacted Ganryu. Ganryu flew backwards and hit the tree, spitting up blood, but he stood up. "You punk, you can defeat me," yelled a Ganryu. Ichigo flared up and glared at Ganryu. "But I can. Getsuga Tensho," yelled Ichigo, unleashing his most powerful attack. The impact on Ganryu was enough to obliterate his body. Ichigo fell forward, but Naruto helped steady him. Ichigo looked up and saw Senna. He started to walk towards her. His eyes were blurred from the damage he took from his battle with Ganryu. The limbs of the True started to fall away, and she reached out for Ichigo and Ichigo reached out for Senna. Their hands barely touched when the world began to shake and rattle. Naruto's eyes widened. "Mother, father, what is going on?" yelled Naruto as Kushina, Minato, and Rukia appeared next to him, all looking a little drained from their battles. Kushina gritted her teeth the way her son would. "That damned Yamamoto, he fired that ing cannon of his," yelled Kushina. "Naruto, we have to get out of here," said Rukia. Naruto cursed under his breath. "Ichigo, grab Senna and let's get the hell out of here," yelled Naruto as he picked up Rukia. Ichigo grabbed Senna's hand and tried to pull her away, but she pulled back and smiled at Ichigo before she kissed him. Ichigo's eyes widened before Senna pulled back. "Ichigo saved me, so I'll save him, because if the world ended you'd disappear too," said Senna as she began to glow golden. The blacks began to spin around her and then a large flash of white appeared. Back in the world of the living, Naruto, Rukia, Minato, and Kushina jumped out of the portal with Ichigo following with Senna cradled in his arms. Ichigo looked out towards the river as the portal closed. Senna opened her eyes and looked at Ichigo. "Ichigo-kun, can you take me to my grave? I want to see it," said Senna. Ichigo nodded and began to walk towards the graveyard. Rukia was about to follow, but Naruto stopped her. She turned her head to Naruto. Naruto shook his head. At the graveyard. They had arrived at the graveyard and stood in front of the grave Senna had pointed out. "Ichigo, my eyes are blurry, does the grave have my name on it?" asked Senna. Ichigo looked at the grave, but didn't see her name on it. Ichigo closed his eyes. "Yes, Senna, it does," said Ichigo with a shaking voice as he began to cry. "I can help you, young one," came a voice from behind them. They turned to see an old woman standing behind them. "Who are you?" asked Ichigo. "We don't have much time, but my name is Shisakutomo, the 6th seat of the 5th Division. I'm not much for talk, but I can save this girl," said the woman. Ichigo's eyes widened. "Can you?" asked Ichigo. The woman nodded, before she removed her sword from its sheath. "This is a one-time thing as it is my bankai," said Shisa as her sword became a long red string that wrapped around Senna and herself. It glowed golden, before it shattered. Senna gasped. Shisa began to walk away. "I saved my bankai for a moment like this. I have been around for a very long time, so I don't fear death. Just live your life without regrets as I did," said Shisa as she vanished with nothing but the wind. Senna hugged Ichigo. "I can't believe it," said Senna. "I know what you mean, Senna," said Ichigo as he picked her up and took her back to the others. With the others, Naruto smiled at Ichigo and Senna. They both looked at him. "What are you smiling about?" asked Ichigo. "It's funny to me. You basically gave up your life for the right reasons. That put Kami on your side not just this day, but for a long time to come. And that makes you one unpredictable son of a bitch." Rukia smacked Naruto upside the head. "No more Ghost Rider for you," said Rukia. Minato looked at Rukia. "But Rukia-chan, he has the blood of a Shinigami in him," said Minato, only to be smacked by Kushina. "No more 300 for you, Minato-kun," said Kushina. Ichigo laughed, before he made a cracking motion like he was holding a whip. Senna looked at him, before she whispered something in his ear that made him pale. Naruto and Senna stood before Yamamoto's desk as Mayuri stood next to him. Naruto had been ordered to bring her to Yamamoto with Mayuri acting as messenger. Ichigo almost started a battle with the research mad captain, but Naruto promised nothing bad would happen to Senna as long as she was with Naruto. "What to do with you? Since you have fulfilled your duties as the Shininju and have been saved from death, you are a loose end, my dear, that needs to be properly tied up," said Yamamoto. You should give her to me for research. Anything I find on this girl here could be of great value to the Soul Society, said Mayuri smiling. Naruto frowned at him. Not happening, you crazy bastard. If you touch a hair on her head then I'll kill you where you stand, said Naruto putting his hand on his sheath. Mayuri too put his hand on his sheath, before he drew it and slashed at Naruto. Naruto blocked the attack and threw Mayuri off, before they charged at each other again. As their blades were about to clash, both found their attacks blocked by Yamamoto's staff. Enough, yelled Yamamoto, narrowing his eyes at his two subordinates. Both men sheathed their swords, before Naruto grinned, having an idea. I would like to make her a member of my division. She's strong. I could use her strength in my division, plus I can give her the spot of 5th seat, said Naruto. Yamamoto seemed to think about it for a second, before nodding. I think it would be appropriate to add such a fine young warrior to your division, said Yamamoto. Mayuri glared at Naruto for taking his test subject from him. But wouldn't it be better to add her to my division? After all, her Ryutsu was created from the Valley of Screams itself, said Mayuri. Naruto glared at him. I've seen how you treat your division members, and quite frankly I'd rather not have a badass trying to kill me because his girlfriend got experimented on, said Naruto, making Senna blush. If you'll excuse me, Senna and I have to meet the rest of the squad, said Naruto as they walked out. Senna looked at Naruto as they walked to the 5th Division barracks. Uzumaki Taicho, why is it that you and Kurosaki seem to have bad blood between the two of you? Asked Senna. It goes back to when I was still in the academy. After I graduated he wanted me in his division, but my wife Soifun got to me first. Then after a year of being in 2nd squad he came to me offering me the position as 2nd seat and his daughter to do whatever I pleased with her. We nearly came to blows over that. Ever since then he and I have been looking for a reason to fight. The second I get the chance that bastard is dead, said Naruto as they had arrived at the barracks. Naruto introduced Senna around the barracks, before he found himself talking to Momo. I'm glad I found you, Naruto-kun, said Momo with a bright smile on her face. What do you need, Momo-chan? Asked Naruto, looking at his vice captain. Well, since you've been gone the paperwork has piled up at your desk and you need to get to it, said Momo as Naruto paled. It was the one thing he hated about being a captain. The piles of paperwork, but he always did his paperwork at the end of a 2-week period. He had been gone for a bit. No way in hell am I doing paperwork, yelled Naruto, looking at Momo like she had grown a second head. Momo smirked at her friend and captain. If you don't, I'll tell Nanao-chan, said Momo. If Naruto was pale before, he was ghost white now. Nanao took everything seriously, and since she was a vice captain and the only person Naruto feared, she told Momo to tell her if Naruto didn't do his work. He looked at Momo. You wouldn't, said Naruto, glaring at Momo. Momo's smirk grew. I would, said Momo. Naruto sighed, before he headed to his office and sat down behind his desk. He always did his paperwork at the end of a 2-week period, because it only took him 3 hours to finish most of it while everyone else took 12 hours, except Kenpachi, who didn't do it at all and just burned it. Naruto started his paperwork while Senna and Momo laughed. Naruto grinned at them when he found a mission to punish them with. Momo, we need a team to patrol the borders for a few days. Take Senna with you as well as a 5-man team, said Naruto while laughing in his head. Don't with your boss Uzumaki, Naruto, yelled Naruto in his mind. Momo and Senna deflated at this, before they went to pick a team for Portal. Naruto smirked. It was a simple mission. Patrol the borders of the 34 Rukin district for a few days. They would be back within 2 days. Naruto finished off his paperwork and stood up, letting his muscles and bones pop back into place, before he walked out of the room and headed towards the 8th Division to see his wife Nanao. Naruto entered the 8th Division barracks to find Shishu hiding out in his favorite spot with the large open area. Naruto smirked as he stepped onto the roof. Hey there, old horse, how you doing? Asked Naruto. Shishu pulled up his straw hat and smiled wide at Naruto. How you doing, kid? Come to see that wife of yours? Asked Shishu, taking a swig of his sake. Naruto smirked. Yeep. If you stopped acting like a womanizer all the time, maybe you could get a girl to date you, said Naruto. Shishu began to laugh. Maybe you're right, but it's still going to be a while before I settle down, said Shishu. Yeah, see you later old horse, said Naruto as he jumped down. Don't make too much noise in the office. People still get nightmares, said Shishu, making Naruto blush at the implications. Naruto picked a rock up off the ground and threw it at Shishu, hitting him square in the face. Shut you old dog, yelled Naruto, storming away. Shishu laughed. Kid is a beast, yelled the Duncan captain. In Nanao's office, Nanao was doing her paperwork as she always did. She actually enjoyed doing the paperwork as it gave her time to think. She almost whined. It had been nearly a month since the last time she and Naruto had any time to themselves. Since the war had technically began when Aizen had defected. She sighed as she looked out the window. It was a lovely day. The kind of day Naruto would want to take a mission on. Nanao jumped when she felt something clawed hit her face. She looked up and saw Naruto grinning, holding a cold can. Nanao glared at Naruto, only to be kissed on the lips. You're so damn why when you glare at me like that. Nanao smirked, before she let down her hair. I can show you just how why I can be, said Nanao, kissing Naruto hard on the lips. Nanao panted. Amazing, said Nanao as she kissed Naruto. Naruto smirked at her. Quote, we're not done yet, said Naruto, sending shivers down her back. In Nexus's castle, Hinata walked down the halls of her master's home. She had pure rage in her eyes. As she passed a servant who bowed to her, she blew her apart with her bare hand. She had been like this for days now, on edge and ready to destroy anyone or anything that annoyed her. As the princess, throwing a hissy fit, asked a voice behind her, laughing slightly. Hinata turned around and glared at the owner of the voice. Go away, Shira. I'm not in the mode to deal with a whore like you right now, said Hinata. Shira smirked, before she walked forward and ed Hinata's check, before her nads went to Hinata's s. I know I'm a whore as you put it, but at least I'm not lusting after a disgusting shinigami like yourself, said Shira into Hinata's ear. Hinata's eyes widened before she tried to slash at Shira with her bare hand. She allowed her Ryutsu to flare as she flew at Shira. Shira unhooked her katana and blocked Hinata's hand. Hinata's strength was enough to push them both more than 100 feet. Hinata drew her sword and slashed at Shira. Shira was quick enough to move back, but was slashed across her stomach. Shira smirked at Hinata, before she turned and ran towards the courtyard. Once outside, Shira awaited Hinata. She didn't have to wait long as Hinata used Soindo to appear next to her. Hinata slashed at Shira. Shira blocked the attack, before she pushed back, before firing a bala at Hinata. Hinata was hit with the bala and flew backwards. Shira jumped up into the air and slashed at the ground, unleashing a blast at Hinata. Hinata stood and knocked the blast away from her with her hand. What's the matter, baby? I know. You're ready to give your body to me, yelled Shira, mocking Hinata. No, I was wondering how I should drag this out, said Hinata, only to vanish and appear before Shira grabbed her by the throat. I'm going to do it slowly so I can watch the life drain from your worthless eyes, and leave your body to be devoured by the weaklings in the forest, said Hinata, looking at Shira with red slitted eyes. Shira paled at the thought of what Hinata had just said. She raised her sword and was about to unleash her full power when 3 people appeared. Nexus separated them, with Kogan holding back Hinata and Koden holding Shira by her neck. There better be a damn good reason of a battle in my private courtyard, said Nexus in a light tone, but with hard eyes. This little slut attacked me, yelled Hinata, still being held back by her own soldier. It's not my fault she can't take a joke, said Shira, smirking. Nexus glared at both of them. Enough. You are both soldiers, act like it. Hinata, I would like a world with you alone. Kogan, take Shira to the punishment chambers. Let Orochimaru deal with her, said Nexus as both the Arrancar bowed. Nexus turned to Hinata when both were well out of earshot. What is the matter with you, Hinata-chan? You've been grumpy lately, said Nexus, looking at one of his most trusted commanders. Hinata flared her Ryutsu. I was out hunting the other day when I felt something off about the world. I felt Naruto's energy signature, only not his, it was too weak. I figured out what it was almost instantly. A child. My Naruto had a child with some bitch, yelled Hinata, blowing a wall away with a Sero. Nexus laughed slightly, making the commander glare at him. So that's what has had you on edge. Very well then. I need you to be at the top of your game, so I'm sending you on a mission. Deliver a message to Seoul Society. I had a group tracked to the 34th Rukin district. Go there, kill them if you please, but make sure that Seoul Society gets the message, said Nexus. Hinata smirked. And what message is that, my lord? Asked Hinata, feeling excited. No matter where you are, even in your own home we can destroy you, said Nexus. Hinata vanished as Lolly walked out. She had tears in her eyes and was holding her hands over her body. Nexus walked closer to her and lightly touched her cheek, making her flinch. That was fun, return soon, said Nexus, slapping Lolly's ass, making her jump slightly in fear of what he was going to do. Lolly ran out of the castle as quickly as she could. Nexus had his fun with her and now she was not but a plaything. Rukin 34. Momo threw a bottle towards Senna. Senna caught the bottle and drank from it. They had decided to take a break from Portal. It had been a long day and they had yet to portal the full border. They had encountered a few weak hollows, but they had easily dispatched of them. Momo Fukutecho, nothing to report, said the man before her. Momo nodded. Good job. We should probably move out, said Momo. As they prepared to leave, a large amount of Ryutsu could be felt. They all turned and looked where it was coming from. It was coming from an old temple. They looked over there and saw a woman, but not just any woman, a beautiful woman with a gray tight bodysuit on. And over her head was a bamboo umbrella. Hollow, yelled one of the men as he and the other 5 drew their swords and charged forwards. Hinata laughed, before she put her 2 index fingers forward. Silly me, said Hinata as she killed them all with 5 separate Seros in one instant. You bitch, yelled Senna, drawing her sword. I prefer Vixen. My name is Hinata. And you, my dears, are my plaything for the next 20 minutes, said Hinata. Not going to happen. Snap. Tobiame, yelled Momo as her sword became a long sword with 3 prongs. Senna held out her sword. Call forth the twilight. Mirokumaru, yelled Senna as a 6-foot gold staff that had 4 gold rings on a bigger golden ring and a sharp tip on the end. Hinata threw the umbrella into the air before pulling her sword. I'm going to enjoy this, said Hinata as she charged at the 2 girls with murder in her eyes. Hinata charged at Momo and thrust her blade at Momo with speed unrivaled. Momo blocked the strike, and unleashed a full-powered blast from her blade at Hinata. Hinata used Soindo to evade the attack, only to get caught by a tornado attack from Senna. Hinata covered her eyes as she was caught in the attack and began to get cut and was spinning around. Momo fired off a blast of fire from her blade as it collided with the tornado. Hinata swiped her sword, dispersing the attack. That was impressive, for a young child, said Hinata from behind Momo, whiling her irritability. Senna flash-stepped behind Hinata, and knocked her away from Momo with the ring side of her staff. Before thrusting the sharp end at her, Hinata knocked it away before slashing a cut into Senna's face. Senna grunted in pain, but ignored it and continued to battle Hinata. Momo joined the battle as both women tried to put the female Erincar on the defensive, but Hinata was effortlessly blocking both of their attacking with just her Zanpakuto. Senna charged and stabbed at Hinata, but Hinata stopped it with just her hand, only for Momo to unleash a point-blank fire attack at Hinata. Hinata opened her mouth and unleashed a bala at the attack. The attacks exploded, knocking the 3 women apart from each other. Senna, move back, yelled Momo, making hand signs one before stopping. Her eyes snapped open and glowed pink before she unleashed a blast of a supercharged fire at Hinata. Hinata brought her sword to block, but the attack was powerful enough to break through the block and hit Hinata square in her chest, ripping away a bit of her uniform, before she hit the ground with a yell. Momo looked at the creator. She and Senna both knew that it would take a lot more than that to kill an Erincar of her level with such a weak attack. Senna panted as she looked at Momo. Is that bitch dead, Momo? Asked Senna, preparing to attack. Momo shook her head. Hard to tell, Senna-chan, said Momo. Hinata rose from the crater and dusted her shoulders off. Far from it, little girls, said Hinata, looking at Momo and Senna. Suddenly Hinata's Ryutsu skyrocketed. Before she busted from the crater and flew at the girls, Momo thrust her blade at Hinata, but Hinata bent out of the way and slashed Momo across her chest. The cut went from her left shoulder to her right hip and it was deep. Momo let out a scream of pain as she hit the ground. Senna glared at Hinata. You're going to pay for that, bitch, yelled Senna, charging at Hinata. Hinata smiled, before using Soindo to appear behind the other girl. Am I now, you little cunt? said Hinata, slashing at Senna. The blade passed though a flash clone. Hinata looked at her blade and noticed that it had a small spot of blade on it. Senna appeared next to Momo, holding her arm, which had a deep cut, as Momo stood on shaky legs. Hinata glared at the two girls. I can't believe my Naruto warms his bed with two weak sluts like you. I'll just have to kill you to get him to see a real woman, said Hinata. Hinata flew at the two girls with unmatched speed. As she was about to cut into Momo's face with her sword, a hand shot out and stopped the blade as it landed on the shoulder of the girl's savior. Captain Uswanki, said a shocked Momo as Naruto freed his own Zanpakuto and cut Hinata's chest. Hinata backed away, holding her chest, and looked at Naruto with a grin. Hello, lover. I see you want me, badly. I'm getting wet just thinking about what you're going to do to me, said Hinata-ing the tip of her sword. Naruto growled, but didn't respond to them. Momo, Senna, are you two all right? Asked Naruto. Only minor injuries for me, Captain, but Momo-san is injured heavily, said Senna, holding her hands to Momo's wounds. Naruto looked at Momo, as she held her chest and was breathing slowly. He needed to get her out of there, but he couldn't, not with Hinata there. Hinata looked like she was about to charge again, when a hand appeared on her shoulder. Hinata-chan, that's enough. The message has been sent, came a voice that Hinata knew all too well, and a voice Naruto didn't want to hear at all. She looked behind her and smiled. Hello, Nexus-sama, said Hinata. Nexus stood there with that same grin on his face. Hello, Naruto-san. It's been a while. You seem to have gotten stronger, said Nexus, putting his hand on his chin. Naruto grinned a merciless grin. Allow me to show you, Nexus, yelled Naruto. Naruto freed his second sword and flew at Nexus with the intent to murder. Nexus freed his own sword, blocking Naruto's attack. Both warriors flew backwards into the field and into a large rock, making smoke rise. Nexus appeared atop a rock, and blocked a slash that Naruto aimed at his neck, and was slashed across his chest from the second sword of his. Nexus jumped back and wiped at the blood. Nexus vanished and appeared with a Sero in his hand. He fired the Sero at Naruto. Naruto brought up his second blade and blocked the attack, before knocking it back at Nexus. Nexus held out his hand and stopped the attack, but it didn't completely stop. It grinded into his hand for a few minutes before stopping. Nexus clenched his fist to stop it from smoking. Impressive. I look forward to the day we can fight at full power, Naruto, said Nexus as he opened a portal and he and Hinata stepped though. Why did you stop, Master? Asked Hinata. Nexus smirked as he looked at his hand. It was bleeding, and had large cuts and burns. It's too early for the party to start. It's almost time, Hinata. I can't wait for the war, said Nexus, confusing Hinata. Back with Naruto, Momo and Senna. Naruto sheathed his swords and ran over to Momo. Her breathing was shallow, and she was gripping her sword tightly. She was losing too much blood. Naruto cursed. Senna, take her sword, said Naruto as Senna nodded. He grabbed her robe. Forgive me, Momo, said Naruto as he ripped it off, leaving her chest to fall free. If this hadn't been a serious matter, he would have commented on her bust size. Naruto had learned a bit of healing Kido while he was still a LT in the 2nd division. He just hoped it was enough to heal Momo. Lord who governs life and death, take the power of destruction, and lend me the power of its sister creation, give me the power to save the innocent. Healing Hado 16, governing hands, yelled Naruto as his hands glowed blue and he placed them on Momo's scar. Momo opened her eyes and looked at Naruto, but to her it was like looking at an icon who was too far beyond her reach. Naru, started Momo, only to black out. Some time later, Momo sat up straight in a bed and gasped. She looked around and realized that she was in her quarters at the 4th Division barracks. The 4th Division had special rooms for LTs and captains. She noticed her left arm was in a sling, she had bandages wrapped around her head, and her hair was out of its bun. I see you're awake, came a voice from the door. Momo looked and smiled as her captain walked into the room. Captain, how are you? Asked Momo, looking at Naruto. He was wearing a blue leisure kimono, with a fox and his 2 swords. Naruto smiled sadly at her, before he kneeled next to her and took her hand in both of his. I should be asking you that, Momo. I thought I had lost you there. You've been in and out of consciousness for days now. I thought you would die, said Naruto, smiling at her. Momo shook her head. I won't die. You give me the strength to live on, said Momo blushing, before she looked into her captain's eyes. The eyes she had come to love. Naruto, I don't know how to say this, but started Momo only to be stopped by Naruto. Momo, before you utter those words be sure of them, started Naruto. Naruto saw she was about to protest, so he continued. Momo, Toshiro told me how you spilled your heart to Aizen, how you confessed your love to him. I want you to be sure of what you're going to say and if you truly wish to give your heart to a married man, said Naruto. Momo closed her eyes and began to think about it. Flashback Academy years. The little girl walked up and blushed as she looked at Naruto as she took his hand. My name is Momo Hinamori. Nice to meet you, Naruto-kun, said the girl as she backed up after shaking his hand. She remembered those days. He had been cute to her. Ye Lord, mask of blood and flesh, all creation, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Inferno and pandemonium, the sea barrier surges, march on to the south. Hito 31 red flame cannon, yelled Renji and Naruto at the same time. A red fireball shot out both their hands and went straight for the hollow. The hollow jumped into the air. Momo now, while you have a clear shot, yelled Naruto. Ye Lord, mask of flesh and bone, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Truth and temperance, upon this sinless wall of dreams unleash but slightly the wrath of your claws. Hito 33 blue flame, crash down, yelled Momo, firing a ball of blue flames from her left palm and hitting the hollow in the back. The hollow fell to the ground only for Renji and Naruto to rush up to it and cut in 4 pieces. In the shape of an X. Wow, you guys are amazing, said Momo running up to her friends. Naruto ruffled her hair while smiling at her. You were amazing too, Momo-chan. As were you, Renji, said Naruto. Of course we're good, we're the best of the advanced class, and I'm the best of the best, said Renji, pointing to himself with his sword over his shoulder and a shit-eating grin on his face. She remembered that time as well. Naruto was her best friend and comrade. He had also saved their lives that day. Looking back, she realized that she had become dependent on those two. Renji and Naruto. Flashback starting their duties. Momo and Aizen stood in the 5th Squad's meditation garden training when Naruto appeared. Momo stopped her training and gave Naruto a hug. Aizen smiled at the scene before him. Ought to be young and in love, said Aizen without Momo or Naruto hearing him. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Asked Momo, grabbing onto Naruto's arm. I'm here to ask you to come on patrol with me. I also would like a word with Aizen in private, said Naruto. She realized that even then Naruto was trying to protect her, not because they had feelings for each other, but because he was her friend. Momo had a tear fall from her eye as she grabbed Naruto's shirt and nodded into his shirt. I'll give you my heart, and even if your wives can't accept me into their hearts. Naruto hugged her gently. Rukia adores you, Soifun speaks highly of your skills, and Naneo is one of your best friends. I'm sure everything will be all right, said Naruto. Momo nodded, before giving Naruto a kiss on the cheek. Naruto stood up fully, smiled at Momo, and Flash stepped away. With Sasuke. Sasuke had a cigarette in his mouth. He rarely smoked, but when he did it was for thinking proposes. He had heard about what had happened as was a bit concerned about it, but he would have to stop thinking about everything as Naruto walked past him. Sasuke put the bud out and followed his former commander. How is Hinamori-san and Senna-san? Asked Sasuke. They'll be fine, just some mild wounds, said Naruto. Sasuke nodded and pulled out a scroll. While you were busy playing, I got some information. A large group of Hollow have been seen in and around Konoha. It has to do with our old teammate Sakura, said Sasuke, stopping Naruto. What is it about her? Asked Naruto, looking at Sasuke. She's close to death. I've requested to be the one to leave. Captain Uzumaki has given me leave to go, said Sasuke. I'll go as well. If the unit that was put together is dispatched, then they can handle it. We have to leave. Get Tenten and Gaara. I'll handle the paperwork for the mission, said Naruto. With Nexus, Orochimaru, Hinata, and Kane. Orochimaru threw a chair into a wall and it shattered. He turned his snaky eyes towards his master. They had been in a meeting for a few hours before this happened. Orochimaru pointed at Nexus. You mean to tell me you had that little fox bastard in your sights and you allowed him to live? Yelled Orochimaru, unleashing Ryutsu. Yes, I did. It is my choice to do so, said Nexus, raising a brow at Orochimaru. Orochimaru's eyes widened. That little bastard is a threat to us and we need to end him, before he becomes too strong. Yelled Orochimaru. Kane looked at his leader. For once I agree with the snake. He should have been killed a long time ago, said Kane. Hinata looked at both of them. How dare you two? Nexus-sama has his reasons for doing what he does and he need not run his choices by the two of you first. He is our master, yelled Hinata, flaring her Ryutsu. Orochimaru glared at Hinata. Hush girl, I brought you to life, I can take it away, yelled Orochimaru. No you won't. Orochimaru, you are no longer my second. Hinata will take your place, and if you try anything I'll end your life, said Nexus, narrowing his eyes and allowing them to turn purple. Orochimaru flinched, and backed away. Of course my lord, said Orochimaru. Dismissed, said Nexus. Both Kane and Orochimaru bowed before leaving. We will have to keep a close eye on them, said Nexus. I'll put Koden on it at once my lord, said Hinata, bowing and leaving to her personal quarters. In Orochimaru's lab some time later, Orochimaru looked at his notes on his small computer with many windows with date floating around as Kane stood off to the side. Kane growled. What do you want, Orochimaru? I still have things to do, said Kane. I have been working on a new group of soldiers. I had intended to give them to Nexus-sama, but now I am rewriting the program to make them loyal to me alone, said Orochimaru, laughing lightly. Kane flashed forward and put a claw around Orochimaru's neck. Where does that leave me and Hinata? Asked Kane. Orochimaru looked at Kane, before prying his claw off his throat. Hinata can be reprogrammed at any given moment. I am still her Arrancar father. As for you, I would kill you unless you allied with me, and not Nexus, said Orochimaru. Kane nodded. I understand, but don't forget that we are still enemies, said Kane. Orochimaru chuckled. I expect nothing less, Kane L. Beast, said Orochimaru, hitting a button. On the other side of the room 3 containers opened up, and 3 figures stepped out of it. Wave Country. In a small house a man with looked like a combination of Renji and Naruto awakened, opening red eyes and looked at the blue ceiling. Where am I? Asked Kyuubi, sitting up. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.